Chapter 549. This be ****starred. Jian Daozi gritted his teeth in anger as he watched Chu Kuangren collect all the treasures in the spiritual Qi earth vein. It was the same thing again. He felt like he had always been at a disadvantage ever since he met Chu Kuangren. First, he was defeated by Chu Kuangren with a single move. Then, the white spirit divine fruit that he had painstakingly found was taken away by Chu Kuangren. Now, the spiritual Qi earth vein that he and a few other forbidden sky prides had been occupied by Chu Kuangren alone. This person's combat strength is unimaginable. How does he have such combat strength? Zhou Yan looked at Chu Kuangren, the scenes of him being defeated by Chu Kuangren still lingering in his mind, a physical body that could suppress wild beasts, a sword Dao that was more profound than Jian Daozi's, a strange runic technique, and an endless stream of emperor techniques. Chu Kuangren's performance had exceeded their understanding of sky prides. They even wondered if Chu Kuangren's combat strength could rival an emperor. Although the forbidden sky prides were strong, most of them could only rival a boundary emperor. There was still a huge gap between them and an emperor. They had never heard of any forbidden sky prides who could rival an emperor. All the sky prides could only watch helplessly as Chu Kuangren looted all kinds of treasures in the spiritual Qi earth vein. It was too torturous for them. At that moment, a few rays of light flew over from afar. These people exuded an extremely powerful aura that was no weaker than the forbidden sky prides. These people were two men and a woman. One of them was a naked man with a muscular upper body. His tan skin had a metallic luster to it, and there were two horns on his head. He had a nose ring on his nose, and he looked rather simple and honest. However, the murderous aura emanating from his body was not inferior to 9 flames at all. The other person was dressed in a black robe. His face was sickly pale, and his aura was indescribably creepy. Upon closer inspection, this young man's eyes were very demonic. They were like a pair of amethysts, and mysterious runic power would occasionally flash through them. The last one was a woman. She was extremely beautiful, with creamy skin, black hair that fell to her waist, and a slim figure. However, there was an indescribable indifference about her. It was not the kind of coldness that seemed to push people 1,000 miles away, but the kind of indifference that was not worth her attention. It's them, Niu Dali of the ancient demonic ox bloodline, Zi Wuji of the land of runes, and the saintess of the 7 emotions sect, Leng Ningyu. Another 3 forbidden prodigies. It looks like there's going to be a good show to watch. The 3 of them aren't any weaker than Jian Daozi and the others. That's especially true of Zi Wuji. His methods are extremely crafty and treacherous. The geniuses present couldn't help but be surprised to see the 3 forbidden geniuses. The 3 of them were also a little confused about what was happening. What did they see? A young man with extraordinary looks was collecting all the treasures in the spirit Qi earth vein, while the rest of the prodigies were just standing there and watching. There were even forbidden geniuses like Jian Daozi among them. This scene was strange no matter how one looked at it. What was going on? Were these sky prides not interested in the treasures in the spirit Qi earth vein? Hey, 9 brains, what's going on here? Niu Dali of the demonic ox bloodline asked 9 flames with a questioning look. He was very blunt with his words. It seemed like he had known 9 flames for a long time, but their relationship did not seem to be that friendly. If you want to know, why don't you go look for that guy yourself? 9 flames snorted coldly. When he looked at Chu Kuangren, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. It was not only him, but the other sky prides felt the same way too. Although Niu Dali looked simple and honest, he was not stupid. He knew that Chu Kuangren was not someone to be trifled with. Although the treasures were tempting, he did not act recklessly. Ningyu, you're here. At that moment, when Jian Daozi saw Leng Ningyu, he tidied up his appearance and walked up to her with a warm smile on his face. The other sky prides were not too surprised to see him like that. The fact that Jian Daozi liked Leng Ningyu and was courting her was no secret among the sky prides on the emperor's path. However, what was surprising was that Leng Ningyu cultivated the supreme oblivion Dao, which made her indifferent to emotions. She did not understand love at all, let alone respond to Jian Daozi. Therefore, everything Jian Daozi did was mostly one-sided, and nothing good ever came out of it. Even so, he still persisted in using every method he could think of to impress her. Jian Daozi was an old bootlicker. Greetings, fellow Daoist Jian. Leng Ningyu looked at Jian Daozi for a moment, then replied in a flat voice. Jian Daozi was not surprised. It was obvious that he had experienced this kind of awkward situation many times in the past. In front of Leng Ningyu, he had long become thick-skinned. But then, he suddenly realized something, and his expression changed. He realized that Leng Ningyu, who had always been harsh to men, no, to anyone, had her eyes on Chu Kuangren the moment she appeared. Not only that, but there was also an indescribable meaning in her gaze. Ningyu? Is there anything I can help you with, fellow Daoist Jian? Leng Ningyu looked at Jian Daozi, her gaze once again as cold as ice. Do you know Chu Kuangren? Are you talking about this fellow Daoist who's collecting the spiritual qi from the earth vein treasure? Yes, indeed, he saved my life. Leng Ningyu said calmly. Her gaze returned to Chu Kuangren, and an indescribable charm appeared in her eyes again. Jian Daozi's expression darkened at that moment. Ever since he first met Leng Ningyu, he had been deeply attracted to her temperament. Hence, he began to pursue her. However, so many years had passed, and it was to no avail. Leng Ningyu treated him like a stranger. Yet now, she was looking at Chu Kuangren with such a meaningful gaze. Her attitude was so different from how she treated other people, and it made Jian Daozi's heart burn with jealousy. It was the first time he felt so much hatred for someone. Not only had Chu Kuangren humiliated him multiple times, but he had also stolen his opportunities of fortune. Now, he was going to steal the woman he loved. At that thought, Jian Daozi was so angry that he almost went crazy. The crowd of sky prides below also noticed that something was amiss. Their gazes moved back and forth between Chu Kuangren and Leng Ningyu. Dozens of scenarios of a hero saving a damsel in distress were already playing out in their minds. However, even if it was a hero saving a damsel in distress, Leng Ningyu, who was a cultivator of the Grand Wangqing Dao, should not have fallen for Chu Kuangren so easily. Could it be that Chu Kuangren is just too good-looking? Some of the cultivators stared at Chu Kuangren. The more they looked at him, the more they felt that he was a celestial being. His temperament and his looks completely outshone everyone else in the crowd. This man is indeed extraordinary. I bet 99% of the women in this world would be mesmerized by his face. Indeed. No wonder Leng Ningyu fell for him. It seems that even the Grand Wangqing Dao cannot resist Chu Kuangren. That face of his is just too heaven-defying. Tisk tsk. Powerful, talented, and handsome. Who can resist him? Chapter 550. Leng Ningyu's strange behavior caused the crowd to speculate. Many of them looked at Chu Kuangren with envy and jealousy. Leng Ningyu was a cultivator of the Grand Wangqing Dao. Chu Kuangren's charm was obvious for someone like her to fall for him. Tsk, I don't think there are many girls in this world that he can't conquer if he wants to. In the crowd, Zhang Hongying was amazed. She did not have that kind of feelings for Chu Kuangren. She only admired him. As expected of the man I like. It's a shame that I don't stand a chance with my status. In the crowd, Feng Yaorao looked at Chu Kuangren with infatuation in her eyes. However, she could not help but shake her head resentfully. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about what the crowd was thinking. He was still busy collecting the treasures in the spiritual Qi Earth vein. The spiritual Qi Earth vein was tens of thousands of kilometers long. It was hard to imagine how many treasures it contained. Even with his mind power, it still took Chu Kuangren a lot of time to collect them. Just when Chu Kuangren had collected more than half of the treasures in the spiritual Qi Earth vein, the spiritual Qi Earth vein suddenly trembled again. Boom, boom. The earth vein trembled again, and at the end of it, another crack began to appear. Everyone looked at the crack with surprise in their eyes. What's going on? Has another treasure appeared? Oh my god, this is too scary. There are so many treasures, and there's still more. What the hell is that? A ray of green light shone out from the crack, and a surge of green chi shot into the sky, forming a giant dragon that was tens of thousands of feet long. Some of the Sky Pride's expressions changed when they saw that. Earth chi into a dragon, is this a dragon vein? Oh my god, a dragon vein. This is the best of all earth veins. What kind of treasure did it give birth to? The earth chi that seeped out from the crevice transformed into a dancing dragon, then exploded in the air, mixed into the clouds, and dyed most of the sky a vibrant green. At the same time, the treasure hidden in the crevice was revealed. It was a ball of green spiritual liquid that was about the height of a person. It was surrounded by countless Taoist rhymes with dragons and phoenixes dancing in the sky. When this ball of green spirit liquid appeared, it gave off an aura of vitality. Hundreds of flowers bloomed around it, and all kinds of plants grew wildly. In the blink of an eye, with the green liquid as the center, the area within 100 miles turned into a lush forest. This kind of fortune shocked everyone present. That's what elemental essence. Jian Daozi looked at the green liquid with shock. Earth vein essence referred to the essence within an earth vein. Generally speaking, very few earth veins could produce earth vein essence. Even if there was, the profound chi that was produced would only be the size of a fist. Such a huge amount of profound chi, not to mention seeing it, no one present had even heard of it. Just this ball of earth vein essence was comparable to all the treasures in this spiritual chi earth vein. If I can absorb this earth vein essence, my battle prowess will increase by at least 2 levels, and I will definitely reach the battle prowess of a martial emperor. It's not easy to absorb so many earth vein essence. It'll take at least a year, but to reach the battle prowess of an emperor within a year, this is a great opportunity. Not only that, this earth vein essence is the best healing elixir in this world. No matter how serious the injury is, just a few drops of earth vein essence will be enough to revive you. How many lives would this ball of earth vein essence be worth? Everyone stared at the ball of earth vein essence with burning eyes. Even Leng Ningyu's eyes showed a hint of emotion. Chu Quanren, you can't monopolize this earth vein essence. 9 Flames could not hold it in any longer. He transformed into his true form and rushed towards the earth vein essence, opening his mouth wide to swallow it. Before this, they could only watch as Chu Quanren collected the other treasures in the spiritual chi earth vein. However, now that they saw this ball of earth vein essence, they could no longer sit still. It was too valuable. The essence of the wood elemental vein was simply too precious. Even an emperor would be tempted by it, let alone these sky prides. A loser dares to touch my things? Chu Quanren said indifferently. Then, he channeled his mind power and formed a huge silver-white rune in the void. The Spatial Freeze Rune. The rune landed and immediately froze 9 Flames' body. Following that, a terrifying palm force poured out like a torrent and landed fiercely on Jiu Yan's body, sending his massive body flying. Even with his ferocious beast body, he could not help but vomit blood under such an attack. Rune? What a powerful spatial rune. Not far away, the forbidden sky pride from the runic land, Zi Wuji's eyes flashed with a demonic purple runic light as he revealed a look of surprise. Everyone, I'm sure I don't have to explain how precious this earth vein essence is. You won't let Chu Quanren monopolize it, will you? Now that we have a few more forbidden sky prides with us, we might be able to defeat Chu Quanren if we attack together, Jian Daozi said to the crowd. He hated Chu Quanren to the core. Now that he had a chance to attack Chu Quanren, he would not let it go so easily. His words made by Heng Yu, Wang Quan, and the others restless. Meanwhile, Niu Dali of the Ox Demon bloodline had a strange look on his face. Are you kidding me? Attack together? You guys want to attack him together? After all, everyone present was a forbidden sky pride. Since when did the forbidden sky prides need to attack one person together? This was simply a fantasy story. Niu Dali, cut the crap. This guy isn't someone you can defeat alone. You'll only stand a chance if you attack him together. 9 flames, who had been blasted away, leaped into the air with ferocious chi surrounding him. His 9 heads let out a low growl. Niu Dali was a little shocked. Even you say that, 9 heads? He looked at Chu Kuangren curiously, and then a smile appeared on his face. Now I'm curious how strong this person is. Just as Jian Daozi had said, they could not just watch the earth vein essence fall into Chu Kuangren's hands. Boom! Niu Dali took a step forward and crossed the distance of a few hundred meters to land in front of Chu Kuangren. His punch created a terrifying shockwave in the void. Chu Kuangren did not take a step back. Instead, he unleashed a punch of his own. The 2 fists collided with each other like 2 meteorites crashing into each other, causing a loud explosion. The ground beneath Chu Kuangren and Niu Dali's feet instantly caved in, forming a huge crater. With the 2 of them as the epicenter, cracks quickly spread out and covered a radius of a few hundred meters. Each crack was dozens of meters deep, like a canyon, and the surrounding landscape changed drastically. What a powerful physical strength. It's not any weaker than mine. Is this guy really a human? Niu Dali's expression changed slightly. He was from the ancient ox demon bloodline, and his physical strength was one of the best among the wild beasts. Yet now, he could not even suppress a human. He could feel that Chu Kuangren's slender and skinny body contained a terrifying amount of power. It was a power that was not any weaker than his own. In fact, it was even more terrifying. Chapter 551. Niu Dali's and Chu Kuangren's fists collided like meteorites, and terrifying energies poured out. The surrounding terrain was affected by this terrifying energy, and a huge crater and crisscrossing rift valley appeared. Chu Kuangren looked at Niu Dali in front of him and smiled faintly. Your physical body is stronger than that little snake. Little snake? Niu Dali was stunned for a moment before he laughed. I didn't expect you to call the ferocious beast, the 9-headed snakelet, a little snake. Good, I like your temper. As he spoke, he swung his fists and unleashed one punch after another. Each punch contained a terrifying amount of energy, and it was as if a meteor was falling from the sky. The countless fist energies were like a meteor shower. Chu Kuangren did not back down in the face of such an attack. He unleashed his supreme sage physique and exchanged dozens of punches with Niu Dali. Both of them were forced back. That was strong. Niu Dali's mouth was bleeding as he clutched his chest. He felt like 2 or 3 of his ribs were broken. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren was still dressed in his white robe. He patted the dust off his robe, and he was unscathed. At that moment, a huge shadow appeared in the sky above him. A huge red seal descended from the sky like 100,000 mountains. It was extremely terrifying. It was Bai Hongyu's heaven-worshipping seal. Chu Kuangren chuckled as an extremely powerful ferocious chi erupted from his body, and a huge divine ferocious avatar was formed. The divine ferocious avatar blocked the heaven-worshipping seal. Seizing this opportunity, Jian Daozi and Wang Quan made their moves. A burst of cold sword-based Daoist rhyme erupted, and the terrifying sword chi turned into a storm that swept towards Chu Kuangren. Behind Wang Quan, a 5-colored radiance circulated as the 5 elements force formed a giant hand that grabbed at Chu Kuangren. The sword chi and the 5 elements force attacked Chu Kuangren from both sides. Ha, a bunch of losers. If I can defeat you once, I can always crush you under my feet. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. With the heaven-worshipping seal in one hand, he raised his other hand and gathered his spiritual power. He unleashed an emperor technique, the heaven's sorrow palm, and a black palm seal flew towards the 5 elements torrent. Immediately afterward, sword chi shot out from his body and turned into a sword chi clone. The sword chi clone slashed out with its sword, slicing through the sword chi that filled the sky. It then transformed into a beam of sword light that shot straight for Jian Daozi. With a loud explosion, the 5 elements torrent and the black palm energy were completely shattered. Chu Kuangren let out a low growl as the power of the divine ferocious avatar erupted, forcefully repelling the heaven-worshipping seal. Devilish Eye of Oblivion. Tu Heng activated his demonic eye again, and a ray of demonic light shot out towards Chu Kuangren, colliding with the divine ferocious avatar once again. Both sides were forced to retreat. Not far away, Niu Dali let out a low roar. Waves of spiritual energy rippled out and his body rapidly expanded, turning into his original form. It was a black demonic bull that was several hundred zhang long. Moo! The demonic bull let out a low roar, and with a stomp of its front foot, the earth cracked and the mountains collapsed. The demonic bull charged towards Chu Kuangren with a terrifying aura that shook the mountains and rivers. It was as if it could easily crush the 10,000 mountains in front of it. Chu Kuangren pushed his divine ferocious avatar to its limits and unleashed his ferocious qi and battle intent. He reached out with both hands and grabbed onto the demonic bull's horns. I'm not afraid of anyone when it comes to brute force. Chu Kuangren smiled and took 2 steps back from the impact of the demonic bull. Then, the divine ferocious avatar let out a low growl and lifted the demonic bull above its head before slamming it into 9 flames, who was charging at it from afar. The 2 wild beasts crashed into each other and rolled into the mountains nearby. How terrifying! In the sky, a pair of cold purple eyes stared at Chu Kuangren. It was Zi Wuji from the runic grounds. He had been observing and did not make a move. Leng Ningyu was the same as him. Brother Leng, aren't you tempted by this earth vein essence stone? Zi Wuji asked. I don't know what it means to be tempted, but if you're asking me if I want this earth vein essence stone, I want it. Then why aren't you making a move? Is it because this person saved your life before? Zi Wuji said playfully. I may be a cultivator of the Oblivion Tao, but I understand that it's not good to be ungrateful. Therefore, I will not participate in this battle. Leng Ningyu said. At the same time, she looked at Chu Kuangren in surprise. She noticed that the Heaven's Sorrow palm that Chu Kuangren used was similar to the Emperor techniques from the 7 Emotions sect. Even if you're not making a move, I do want to meet this person. Zi Wuji chuckled. Then, he raised his hand and a huge amount of spiritual power gushed out from his palm. In the void, streaks of silver-white patterns appeared. These patterns intertwined and condensed into a mysterious silver-white rune. Spatial Freeze Rune. Zi Wuji let out a low roar and the giant rune headed towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren sensed the rune and a strange look flashed across his eyes. Interesting. I can't believe someone knows how to use the Spatial Freeze Rune. As soon as the freeze rune landed, the space around Chu Kuangren was instantly sealed. The others' eyes lit up when they saw that. This is our chance. Heaven-worshipping sword art. 5 elements capturing technique. Demonic Eye of Oblivion. Fire and water divine ability, Flame Snake. Demonic Ox Fist of Strength. The 5 forbidden sky prides attacked almost at the same time. Different types of Daoist rhymes erupted and swept out with majestic power. Even an emperor would not dare to say that they could easily block such power. Now you guys can make me show my true colors. Chu Kuangren smirked and the supreme foundation level within his body erupted with a dazzling brilliance. As he channeled his spiritual power, the transcendent coalescence Daoist physique, infallible tormented physique, and exquisite 9 orifices sword heart converged and formed an incomparably vast power. Waves of spiritual power surged out from Chu Kuangren like a tidal wave. The spatial freeze rune was shattered. The descendant self sword was unsheathed, and a dazzling purple sword ray instantly erupted. It contained the power of Chu Kuangren's supreme foundation level and the fusion of his 3 supreme Daoist physiques. The heaven-worshipping sword art's sword ray was the first to collide with the purple sword ray, but it was instantly disintegrated. Following that was the demonic ray, the power of water and fire, the power of the 5 elements, and the demonic ox fist force. The killing techniques unleashed by the forbidden sky prides were all shattered in the face of this sword ray. The impact of the collision spread out, and the few forbidden sky prides who bore the brunt of it were all sent flying and spitting out blood. Even those with strong physical bodies like the demonic ox and 9 flames were heavily injured. Bai Hongyu, Tu Heng, and Wang Quan were left in a worse state. If they had not taken out their defensive treasures at the last moment, they would have been at risk of dying on the spot. Not far away, Jian Daozi, who was battling the sword Qi clone, was shocked by the attack. Due to his distraction, his arm was cut off by the clone. Then, the sword Qi clone exploded and turned into a majestic sword shadow, which cut Jian Daozi in half on the spot. Jian Daozi's clone had fallen. The remaining forbidden sky prides looked at Chu Kuangren with indescribable fear in their eyes. Even with so many forbidden sky prides attacking, they were still no match for Chu Kuangren. In fact, Chu Kuangren did not even sustain a single injury. What kind of terrifying combat strength was that? Chapter 552. Chu Kuangren single-handedly defeated a few more forbidden sky prides. His invincible aura was like that of a deity king that shook the heavens and earth. He stood in the air and looked at Zi Wuji, who had only used one freeze rune, and smirked. "Your eyes look pretty good." He used his eye of revelation to analyze this person. He realized that this person came from the land of runes and was an expert in runic techniques. His eyes, especially, contained a very powerful runic energy. "I'm impressed by your combat strength," Zi Wuji said as he looked at Chu Kuangren's imposing aura with a serious expression. So many forbidden sky prides could not defeat this person, so he alone was no match for him. "Do you want to fight?" Chu Kuangren asked. "I saw that you used the spatial freeze rune just now, so you must be an expert in runic Dao. Why don't we use runic Dao to determine the winner?" Zi Wuji suggested. Many sky prides cursed him for being shameless when they heard his suggestion. As the forbidden sky pride of the land of runes, Zi Wuji's runic techniques were almost invincible in the emperor's path. No matter how strong Chu Kuangren was, he had so many cultivation techniques. How could a single runic technique compare to Zi Wuji, who specialized in runic research? At that thought, everyone looked at Chu Kuangren, thinking that he would not agree. However, they hoped that he would agree. Even if Zi Wuji won in the end, they would not care as long as they could defeat Chu Kuangren. "That's amazing. You can choose which technique to use to determine the winner." Chu Kuangren could not help but chuckle. Zi Wuji was speechless for a moment. Indeed, Chu Kuangren had the absolute upper hand now. No one there was a match for him, so he could do whatever he wanted. He did not have to care about Zi Wuji at all. "However, it seems like you're very confident in your runic techniques to make such a suggestion," Chu Kuangren said. "I'm a little confident. Since you want to use runic techniques to determine the winner, I'll grant you your wish." "Oh, so you agree?" Zi Wuji's eyes lit up. He did not expect Chu Kuangren to agree. "Yes, but since you're so confident, why don't we make a bet?" "What bet?" "I heard that the Land of Runes Myriad Rune Catalog records all the runes since ancient times. If you lose, I want the Myriad Rune Catalog." That was the reason why Chu Kuangren agreed to it. He wanted to obtain the 10,000 Talisman Catalog to increase his talisman techniques. "That's impossible. The 10,000 Symbol Catalog is the treasure of the Land of Runes. It's impossible for it to be leaked easily. Furthermore, the catalog is in the Land of Runes. I don't have it on me." "Forget it then," Chu Kuangren said calmly. Following that, the sword-based Taoist rhyme emanated from his body and a gigantic sword shadow formed in the void. The sword shadow exuded an incomparably sharp aura, and Zi Wuji felt as if his body was being enveloped by that aura, causing him to feel a stabbing pain. Without a doubt, if this sword were to descend, then even he would absolutely not have a good time. Chu Kuangren's meaning was very clear. Since using runic techniques to determine the outcome of the battle would not benefit him in any way, why should he do so? "I'll kill you with one strike, take the treasure and leave. Isn't that nice?" "Please wait a moment," Zi Wuji shouted and said, "Although I don't have the original 10,000 Talisman Catalog with me, I do have a rubbed version here. Aside from a few core forbidden runic techniques, the rest of the runes are recorded in it. I'm willing to use that as a wager." Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren slowly retracted his sword chi and pondered for a while. That's fine too. Alright, then it's settled. You and I will use runic techniques to determine the outcome of the battle. If I'm lucky enough to win, then this wood elemental essence will belong to me. If I lose, then I'll give you the rubbed version of the 10,000 talisman catalog, Zi Wuji said as a demonic purple light began to swirl in his eyes. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Sure. Bring it on then. Zi Wuji laughed, looking as if he was determined to win. In his heart, he was already cursing Chu Kuangren for being an idiot. When it came to runic techniques, no one could compare to the Land of Runes. As the forbidden sky pride of the Land of Runes, Zi Wuji's runic techniques were renowned throughout the Emperor's path. He did not know where Chu Kuangren learned some runic techniques from, but if he wanted to compete with Zi Wuji, he was simply overestimating himself. Zi Wuji was a professional. Zi Wuji then began to channel his spiritual power, and a mysterious rune began to form at the tip of his finger. That rune then turned into a giant fireball that flew towards Chu Kuangren. Its power was no less than that of a top-tier sage ruler. The fact that Zi Wuji was able to condense such a rune so easily was a testament to his mastery of runes. However, just as the giant fireball was about to reach Chu Kuangren, a golden rune condensed in the void and turned into a golden shield. The fireball landed on the shield and exploded. It could not hurt Chu Kuangren at all. Zi Wuji was a little surprised. It was not that Chu Kuangren had blocked his attack, but the way his opponent condensed the rune was very unique. He did not even use his own spiritual power. Instead, he directly condensed the spiritual chi between heaven and earth. What kind of runic technique is this? Zi Wuji had been in the runic lands for a long time, but he had never heard of anyone who could activate runes in such a way. Why did you stop? Let's continue. Let me see what the runic lands are capable of. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Even Zi Wuji would not have guessed that a talent like mind power existed in this world. After all, it was an inheritance that had been lost a long time ago. Be careful, sir. Zi Wuji continued to attack. He gathered his spiritual power, and lines of runes began to form at the tip of his finger. The green runes condensed and turned into wind ropes that flew towards Chu Kuangren, intending to entangle him. However, they were all cut in half by the runic swords that Chu Kuangren had condensed. Following that, lines of azure runes appeared in front of Zi Wuji. From them, bolts of lightning energy erupted and shot towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren stood still and unleashed his runic swords one after another. Windfrost rune. Lightning rune. Windstorm rune. Runes used the power of heaven and earth. Without a doubt, Zi Wuji was an expert in this field. The lines of runes turned into all sorts of powerful natural powers that swept towards Chu Kuangren. Lightning, wind, fire, frost, endless runes were cast from Zi Wuji's hands, turning into all sorts of natural powers that swept towards Chu Kuangren. It was extremely dazzling. The surrounding sky prides could not help but be amazed at this rare rune battle. As expected of the forbidden sky pride of the runic lands. His runic techniques are really powerful. Indeed. I'm afraid there aren't many people in this world who can match up to him. Even if there are, it would be those old monsters from the runic lands. However, the crowd soon realized that Chu Kuangren was not at a disadvantage against Zi Wuji at all. No matter what kind of runes the other party used, he could block them with his rune swords. He just stood there with a calm look on his face. I can't believe this person's runic techniques are this powerful. Wang Quan, Bai Hongyu, and the others were shocked. They could not find any weakness in Chu Kuangren. Physical body, spiritual power, sword Dao, runes. This person was proficient in all of them. Chapter 553. The runic battle was incomparably beautiful, and everyone was dazzled by the unique battle. Meanwhile, the battle between Chu Kuangren and Zi Wuji was getting more and more intense. Zi Wuji continuously used all kinds of runic techniques. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren stood still and easily nullified all of his techniques. Spatial freeze rune. Ziwuji activated his spiritual power, and the silver-white runes condensed into a huge mystical rune in the void. The spatial rune appeared again, sealing off the space around Chu Kuangren. Then, countless runes swarmed towards Chu Kuangren. Seeing that, Chu Kuangren raised his hand and formed a huge runic sword to shatter the spatial freeze rune. "Is that all you've got?" Chu Kuangren said calmly. His spiritual thought moved, and a huge rune formed above Ziwuji. It contained a majestic force of mountains and rivers, and it pressed down. It was the Mountain River Talisman. Ziwuji quickly formed dozens of green runes, forming a terrifying gust of wind that swept towards the Mountain River Talisman. When the two forces collided, the wind and the Mountain River Talisman dissipated. "Ha, the show has officially begun." Ziwuji smiled, and a demonic purple light flashed across his eyes. Spiritual power gushed out, and lines of mysterious runes condensed in the air, turning into runic swords. These runic swords were all used by Chu Kuangren before. "Oh, you used those eyes to copy my runic swords?" Chu Kuangren said calmly. He had used the Eye of Revelation to analyze Ziwuji, so he had some understanding of his opponent's techniques. "Your eyesight is not bad. My purple talisman demonic eyes can copy any rune. Now, all the runes you know are mine." Ziwuji laughed, and with a raise of his hand, countless runic swords shot towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren also formed runic swords around him and shot them out. The runic swords streaked across the sky like meteors, colliding in the air and exploding into beautiful energy sparks. Mountain River Talisman. Ziwuji formed a huge rune that pressed towards Chu Kuangren. It was the same rune that Chu Kuangren had used before. The crowd could not help but be shocked. Ziwuji's eyes are a little too monstrous. He can actually copy runes? Yes, such a method is too useful in the Tao of Talismans. In the future, he will definitely become the number one in the Tao of Talismans. Purple symbol demon eyes. I've never heard of such a technique before. Some of the geniuses present had also cultivated runes before. When they saw Ziwuji's ability to copy runes, they were extremely shocked. They understood what this ability meant. It should be known that if a charm master wanted to learn a kind of charm, they would need to study and carve it day and night. Even the lowest level charm would need to be carved thousands of times before they could master it. However, Ziwuji's ability could instantly copy the charm that others had spent countless efforts to learn. This kind of ability was the dream of all rune masters in the world. But at the same time, this ability was no different from a nightmare for rune masters who did not have this ability. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and activated the runic sword, shattering the Mountain River Talisman. It is indeed an interesting ability. Chu Kuangren chuckled. The interesting part is yet to come. Ziwuji laughed. Suddenly, an incomparably huge green rune appeared in the void and wrapped around Chu Kuangren. The surrounding wood elemental spiritual energy was also gathering towards this rune. In an instant, a large amount of wood-based spiritual chi condensed into countless branches that gushed out from the rune. The countless branches were like tentacles that stretched towards Chu Kuangren. Even if he activated the runic sword to cut them apart, it was useless. These branches regenerated at an alarming rate. Once one was cut apart, two more would quickly grow out. It was almost an endless stream. Ha, this is the World of Trees rune. It's the best wood-based rune, and this place just so happens to be a wood-based spiritual chi vein. There's no shortage of wood-based spiritual chi here. No matter how hard you struggle, it's useless. Just stay trapped inside. Ziwuji laughed. He already felt that victory was within his grasp. He had been secretly drawing this World of Trees rune ever since he battled Chu Kuangren. Now, he had finally succeeded in sealing Chu Kuangren. Ziwuji believed that under such circumstances, he could even trap 10 forbidden sky prides. Once he trapped Chu Kuangren, victory would not be far away. Brother Chu, do you want to admit defeat? If not, you can choose to use other methods. I don't mind. Although it sounded nice, Zi Wuji was actually reminding Chu Kuangren that this was a battle of runes. If he used other methods, he would automatically admit defeat. Ha, against you, I can use both my hands and legs. Chu Kuangren said calmly. In fact, he had been using his mind power to condense the rune. It was not an exaggeration to say that Zi Wuji was using both his hands and legs. Have a taste of this rune, the destruction rune. As soon as he said that, Chu Kuangren's spiritual thought surged, and lines of mysterious runic patterns spread out with him as the center. A huge white rune condensed and covered the giant world of trees rune. The runic power between the two started to dissipate. What's going on? What rune is this? Zi Wuji was shocked. Purple light flashed in his eyes as he tried to copy the rune that Chu Kuangren had used. However, he discovered that this annihilation talisman was simply too profound. He could not copy the Taoist rhymes that were contained within the patterns. This is the mysterious rune. Zi Wuji's pupils shrunk. Runes were the power to control the nature. However, there was one type of rune that contained a power that was completely different from what most people knew about nature. That type of rune was mysterious and secretive. That was why runemasters called it the mysterious rune. The destruction talisman that Chu Kuangren had unleashed contained one of the mysterious powers of the runes. That was the rune power that his purple rune demonic eyes could not copy. Even in the rune lands, there aren't many types of runes that contain the mysterious rune. I can't believe this guy has mastered the mysterious rune. D***mn it, this mysterious rune seems to be able to disintegrate the power of runes. Zi Wuji's expression changed. The appearance of the mysterious rune had completely disrupted his rhythm. After Chu Kuangren disintegrated the tree world's runes, he smiled and said, "Aren't you very good at copying? But I wonder if your copying speed is fast enough." As soon as he said that, a huge amount of mind power poured out and enveloped the heavens and earth. Under the guidance of his mind power, an endless amount of spiritual qi quickly gathered. In the void, a ray of fire appeared. It was a flame rune. A ray of frost formed. It was a frost rune. In the natural world, all kinds of power appeared in the void in the form of runes. Countless talismans densely filled the sky like a vast sea of talismans, emitting boundless pressure from the talismans. Under such an aura, even Zi Wuji could not help but tremble. There were too many. The number of runes that Chu Kuangren had condensed was too many, so many that it was unimaginable. Even if he could copy the runes 10 or 100 times faster, he could not catch up to Chu Kuangren's speed of condensing runes. I've lost. Chapter 554. I've lost. Zi Wuji swallowed a mouthful of saliva and directly admitted defeat. The domineering aura emanating from the tens of thousands of runes that hung in the sky was too terrifying. Once all of them landed on him, it was not something that he could resist. Not to mention that Chu Kuangren had mastered the mysterious rune technique. That kind of power was what he feared the most. When Zi Wuji admitted defeat, everyone couldn't help but gasp, and their faces were filled with shock. It was not surprising that Chu Kuangren could defeat Zi Wuji. After all, so many forbidden sky prides were no match for Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren defeated Zi Wuji using runic techniques. That was something that shocked everyone. The forbidden sky pride from the land of runes was defeated by someone using runic techniques. Was there anything more unbelievable than this? The crowd could not believe it. However, the truth was right in front of them, so they had no choice but to believe it. This monster, what else can defeat him? Xiao Jingchen murmured. He knew about Chu Kuangren earlier than the others, so he understood how terrifying he was. Chu Kuangren had swept through everything along the way. His invincible aura was unprecedented. He almost suspected that even the emperors from the emperor's path would not be able to defeat Chu Kuangren. After Zi Wuji admitted defeat, Chu Kuangren dispersed his mind power. In the void, the countless runes turned into specks of light and gradually dissipated. "All right, it's time for you to fulfill your promise," Chu Kuangren said. Zi Wuji reluctantly took out a thick booklet from his yin and yang ring. It was the copy of the Myriad Talisman Catalogue. Chu Kuangren took it and looked at it. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he kept it in his yin and yang ring. He planned to study it when he had the time. Then, Chu Kuangren looked at the earth vein essence not far away. Under the envious and jealous gazes of the crowd, he walked towards the earth vein essence. The closer he got, the more he could feel the power contained within it. Without a doubt, this was a treasure that was no less valuable than the white spirit fruit. Once I refine the white spirit fruit and this earth vein opportunity of fortune, my strength will definitely increase again. At that time, even if a monarch realm expert comes personally, I'm still fully confident that I can defeat him. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Then, he raised his hand and stored the essence of the wood earth vein into his yin and yang ring. Damn it! The rest of the Sky Prides cursed in their hearts upon seeing this. Now that things had come to this, they could no longer snatch the treasures from Chu Kuangren. Thinking of this, many prodigies left to look for opportunities in other places. Just as Chu Kuangren was about to collect the remaining treasures in the earth vein and leave, the Seven Emotions sect's maiden sage, Leng Ningyu, walked up to him from afar. What's the matter? Chu Kuangren looked at Leng Ningyu and asked. I am Leng Ningyu, thank you for saving my life a few days ago. Michum, you're welcome. It's just convenient. Chu Kuangren said. He did not intend to converse with the other party any further. Back then, he only wanted the frosty python's horn. Saving Leng Ningyu was just a matter of convenience. He didn't expect anything in return. Besides, would a cultivator of the Grand Wang Qing Dao know what gratitude was? It's like this. Brother Chu, I saw you use an emotion-inducing cultivation technique during your battle. It seems to be very similar to a few of the Seven Emotions sect's cultivation techniques. I wonder if you're related to the Seven Emotions sect? Leng Ningyu asked. Upon hearing this, Chu Kuangren pondered. What kind of relationship could he have with the Seven Emotions sect? An emotion-related cultivation technique, could it be? Chu Kuangren seemed to have thought of something and said, Brother Leng, do you know similar emperor techniques? He used his eye of revelation to look at Leng Ningyu, but he did not find any emotion-related emperor techniques. It made sense. She was a cultivator of the Grand Wang Qing Dao, so how could she know such a technique? Sure enough, Leng Ningyu shook her head. I don't cultivate those emperor techniques, but there are some people in my Seven Emotions sect who cultivate them. I feel that the emperor technique that you have is related to my Seven Emotions sect. I hope that after leaving the Thousand Strange Cave, you can come to my Seven Emotions sect for a chat. As she spoke, Leng Ningyu took out a token that was carved out of white jade and handed it to Chu Kuangren. The Sky Prides who had yet to leave could not help but gasp in amazement when they saw this. It was their first time seeing the maiden sage, who had abandoned her love, inviting a young man to the Seven Emotions sect. TSK, Leng Ningyu did not even spare a glance at Jian Daozi's shameless pursuers. Now that Chu Kuangren is obviously not interested in Leng Ningyu, this maiden sage has taken the initiative to invite him to the Seven Emotions sect. What an eye-opener. Poor Jian Daozi. He's been courting his goddess for so long, but now she's going to fall into someone else's arms. The crowd discussed among themselves. However, Chu Kuangren did not pay any attention to these discussions at all. He was fiddling with the white jade token that he had just received from Leng Ningyu. There was still a lingering warmth and a faint fragrance on it, and his eyes revealed a thoughtful look. It's the Seven Emotions sect. Since Brother Leng wants to invite me, it would be impolite of me to decline. After the Thousand Wonders cave closes, I'll personally pay you a visit. Alright, I'll welcome you with open arms when the time comes. Leng Ningyu nodded slightly before she turned around and left. After she left, the other Sky Prides also dispersed one by one. Chu Kuangren collected all the treasures in the earth vein. Not long after, he heard footsteps coming from behind him. Jian Changfeng walked up to him and knelt on one knee. Jian Changfeng greets you, master. Alright, you may rise. He took out an emperor-grade supreme elixir from his yin and yang ring and said, "You've done well in harvesting the white spirit divine fruit. Take this emperor-grade supreme elixir and cultivate it." Jian Changfeng did not immediately go forward to take the elixir. Instead, he said, "It's my duty to work for you, master. I dare not ask for a reward." Chu Kuangren glanced at him. Jian Changfeng looked serious, and it was obvious that he was speaking from the bottom of his heart. It seemed that the Mastery Soul Slave Seal had completely transformed Jian Changfeng. "Since I've given it to you, take it." "Thank you, master." Jian Changfeng took the supreme elixir with joy in his eyes. Although he was extremely loyal to Chu Kuangren, he still yearned for an emperor-grade supreme elixir. This supreme elixir was many times more valuable than the one Jian Changfeng had given him. It was enough to increase his strength by a lot. You can move freely in the Thousand Wonders Paradise. Once you're out, return to the swordsmen and continue to monitor them, especially Jian Daozi's movements. "Yes, master." Jian Changfeng then stood up and left. Not long after, Chu Kuangren called Shang Qingxue and Murong Xian over. Both of them had witnessed everything from a mountain peak not far away. They knew that Chu Kuangren had taken all the treasures in the spiritual Qi Earth vein. "I've done it." The smile on Shang Qingxue's face was so bright that she almost ran up to Chu Kuangren and hugged him. Murong Xian was slightly better than her, but he could not hide the excitement on his face either. With so many treasures, this trip to the Thousand Wonders Paradise is already very satisfying. Once I get out, I'll need to find a place to properly digest them. Chu Kuangren murmured. Chapter 555. Chu Kuangren kept all the treasures in the spiritual Qi Earth vein, and the news of him single-handedly fighting against so many forbidden sky prides also spread. Many people were shocked by his combat strength, but there were also many who expressed doubts. Regardless, the name Chu Kuangren had spread throughout the sky pride circle in the Emperor's path. That was an undeniable fact. However, to Chu Kuangren, these were just empty titles. He did not care. Just because he did not care, it did not mean that others did not care. Especially those forbidden sky prides who were defeated by Chu Kuangren. The news of their ambush on Chu Kuangren and their defeat had spread like wildfire among the sky prides community. Many people were talking about it. Chu Kuangren had become famous. However, he had stepped on them to get to where he was, and that made them extremely unhappy. Not only that, but Chu Kuangren had also snatched an entire spiritual Qi Earth vein from their hands. This was something that they would not let go of easily. "Chu Kuangren, you may have taken so many treasures from us, but are you sure you can keep them?" Somewhere in the Thousand Wonders Paradise, Bai Hong Yu of the Bai family snorted coldly. She held a jade scroll in her hand and crushed it. Suddenly, a strange ripple traveled across space, out of the paradise, and went to the Bai family. On the other side, Wang Quan cast a technique, and that technique turned into a line of small words before it dissipated into flames. The Wang family, who was hundreds of millions of miles away, immediately received the message. "Humph, Chu Kuangren, you killed my brother Wang Tianteng and took my treasures. I will not let this matter rest." A cold glare shot out from Wang Quan's eyes. He threw a punch, and the terrifying 5 elements light rolled in his hand, hitting a mountain in the distance. The entire mountain exploded with a boom, turning into countless dust. Almost at the same time, inside a cave, the forbidden sky pride of the demon tribe, Tu Heng, was recuperating from his battle with Chu Kuangren. The demonic qi on his body gradually receded, and a hint of hatred appeared in his eyes. "Chu Kuangren, you first stopped the demonic realm from descending into the firmament world, and now you've injured me in the Emperor's path and taken my opportunity of fortune. You deserve to die. You're just a sky pride from the outside world, and you have no background in the Emperor's path. So what if you have the treasures? I want to see how you're going to keep them." Tu Heng sneered, and then he withdrew a black crystal. Light flowed within the crystal, and then an old figure appeared. "Young Master Tu Heng, did something happen for you to take the initiative to contact us?" "I need you, Tu Heng narrated everything that had happened in the Thousand Wonders Paradise. Within the sword race, a terrifying energy fluctuation suddenly spread out from a certain secluded cultivation area, and a furious roar spread through the entire sword race. Countless swords of the sword race began to tremble. Many cultivators of the sword race looked towards the source of the roar in shock. That was where Jian Daozi was. Just what had happened to cause Jian Daozi to be so furious? Where Jian Daozi was in seclusion. Chu Kuangren, how dare you destroy my clone? You deserve to die 10,000 times over. There's also the white spirit divine fruit, the earth string quintessence energy, and so many other treasures. You're dreaming if you think you can take them all for yourself. Jian Daozi's face was a bit vicious as sword chi swirled around him, leaving numerous sword scars on the mountain walls around him. He took out his communication artifact. Contact the sword race patriarch. Various forces were making their moves. The most terrifying thing about the Forbidden Sky Prides was not only their own strength and talent, but also their background. The trip to the Thousand Wonders Paradise was coming to an end. On this day, the entire sky of the Thousand Wonders Paradise began to change. Like a mirror, it reflected the scenery of the entire Thousand Wonders Paradise. An intense spatial ripple spread out from the void, covering the entire grotto heaven. Everyone who saw this knew that the Thousand Wonders Paradise was about to close. It's time to leave. If we don't leave now, we won't be able to leave when the Thousand Wonders Paradise closes. Murong Xian said as he prepared to fly out. However, Chu Kuangren stopped him at that moment. Please wait. What's wrong, sect leader? Murong Xian was puzzled. Chu Kuangren smiled faintly, then took out two yin and yang rings and said, these contain a portion of the wood elemental essence and some treasures such as supreme elixirs. When you guys get out, find a place to refine them. We may have to separate for a while. Murong Xian and Shang Qingshua's expressions changed when they heard Chu Kuangren's words. Sect leader, what do you mean? It's nothing much. You guys still need to hone yourselves after entering the Emperor's Road. With me protecting you, what's the point of honing yourselves? Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue looked at each other. They knew that Chu Kuangren's decision to part ways with them was not just for this reason. Is it because of the orthodoxies behind the Forbidden Sky Prides? Shang Qingxue was smart enough to figure out what was going on. Chu Kuangren smiled. Just be careful. Alright, you guys can go now. Qingxue, let's go. Murong Xian took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and turned to leave. He knew that with their current strength, they would only be a burden to Chu Kuangren. They would only make Chu Kuangren more worried and unable to unleash his full potential. The only thing they could do now was to improve themselves as fast as they could in the Emperor's Road. As more and more figures flew away, the number of cultivators in the paradise gradually decreased. When Chu Kuangren estimated that it was about time, he too turned into a stream of light and flew out of the paradise. Outside the Thousand Wonders Paradise, the cultivators were still lingering around the place. I've obtained a Boundary Emperor Supreme Elixir this time. It's not bad. What about you, Brother Lin? It's nothing much. It's just a few sage-grade treasures. I can't compare to you. Sigh, all I got was a useless sage weapon. Many people gathered together and discussed their gains from this trip to the paradise. Of course, most cultivators would not reveal all their gains. They would hide some of their gains even from those they were close to. However, that did not stop them from discussing enthusiastically. Just when the discussion was at its peak, Chu Kuangren suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The lively scene instantly quietened down. It's him, right? I heard that he's the one who took the biggest opportunity of fortune in the Thousand Wonders Paradise, the entire spiritual chi vein. I heard that the vein even contains a huge amount of wood elemental essence. Oh my god, he's really daring. Even with our gains, we might not even be able to match up to his gains. That's right, that opportunity of fortune is just too terrifying. Not only that, I heard that his combat strength is so strong that even a few forbidden sky prides could not do anything to him. Otherwise, how could he have monopolized the opportunity of fortune? Many people stared at Chu Kuangren and whispered among themselves. There were also some who looked at Chu Kuangren with intense greed in their eyes. After all, he had too many treasures on him. It would be a lie to say that they were not tempted. However, they did not dare to act rashly due to his strength. Chapter 556. The fact that Chu Kuangren had many treasures with him had long been known by the cultivators who entered the Thousand Strange Paradise. At that moment, his appearance had instantly attracted the attention of many people. Many cultivators wanted to take his treasures for themselves, but most of them dared not do so because of his strength. However, there were still some who were bold enough to do so. So you're Chu Kuangren. A white-robed young man slowly walked out, and beside him were a few other young men and women. Each of them had a domineering sage aura around them. It's them, the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain. A cultivator exclaimed. The Dragon Mountain referred to the Dragon Mountain Prefecture, and the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain were the 7 most outstanding young sky prides in the Dragon Mountain Prefecture. All 7 of them came from the Dragon Mountain, so they formed a group of sky prides known as the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain. All 7 of them were top-notch sky prides, and the leader of the group was a sky pride who was second only to the forbidden sky prides. Rumor had it that if the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain attacked together, even the forbidden sky prides would not dare to underestimate them. Of course, that was just a rumor, and no one knew whether it was true or not. However, it made the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain very famous. Chu Kuangren glanced at the white-robed young man and said, "What do you want?" The white-robed young man, who was the leader of the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain, looked at Chu Kuangren and said, "I heard that you've occupied an entire spiritual chi vein in the Thousand Strange Paradise. Don't you think that your actions are a little too overbearing?" "Ha, I can do that because I have the strength. What about you? What do you want? Are you going to steal the treasures?" Chu Kuangren said. "That's what I was thinking." The leader of the Dragon Mountain sneered, and the few cultivators behind him also revealed their fighting stance. "I really can't believe there are idiots like you all everywhere I go." Chu Kuangren shook his head. I've heard that you can fight a few forbidden sky prides without losing, but I don't believe it. The forbidden sky prides are so powerful that not many are a match for them in a one-on-one fight. Not many people in this world can survive their attacks, let alone the younger generation of cultivators. Then I can only say that your vision and strength have limited your imagination. You are a frog at the bottom of a well. You are too shallow." Hearing this, the eldest brother of Dragon Mountain frowned and a cold look appeared in his eyes. "I want to see who is the real frog at the bottom of the well." As soon as he finished speaking, he activated the spiritual power within his body and a cold torrent of water energy gathered in the void. It then transformed into a series of water arrows that shot towards Chu Kuangren. However, when these arrows were 30 feet away from Chu Kuangren, they all shattered and turned into mist. How could this be? The Dragon Mountain chieftain's expression changed. He did not expect his attack to be so easily neutralized by Chu Kuangren. "Help me!" The Dragon Mountain boss shouted in a low voice. The cultivators behind him all stood behind him. Accompanied by loud shouts, these people slapped their palms on the back of the Dragon Mountain's eldest brother and poured their spiritual energy into his body. 7 different Tao runes fused within the Dragon Mountain eldest brother's body, forming an incomparably majestic force. "Oh, a joint attack." Chu Kuangren revealed a playful smile on his face. The surrounding cultivators were also very surprised to see this. What a powerful force. No wonder the rumors say that the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain's attack together is comparable to the Forbidden Sky Pride. So that's how it is. However, can this really defeat Chu Kuangren? Everyone's eyes were glued to the screen. The Dragon Mountain chieftain let out a low roar and then pushed both of his hands horizontally. A violent surge of energy gushed out from his palms. This surge of energy was so majestic that it was like a torrential flood that destroyed everything in its path. Chu Kuangren, go to hell. A terrifying surge of spiritual energy gushed towards Chu Kuangren, but he stood still and did not move an inch. Idiot. Chu Kuangren raised his hand slightly and a surge of spiritual power gathered in his palm. Then, he casually slapped the void in front of him. The terrifying energy that erupted from the Dragon Mountain chieftain's eldest brother and the other 6 cultivators was instantly shattered by his gentle slap, and a horrifying spiritual power swept out. Boom! The 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain were immediately sent flying by this terrifying surge of energy. One after another, they spat out blood. Those who had a weaker cultivation level had their bones and tendons shattered on the spot, and their bodies exploded. How is this possible? The Dragon Mountain chieftain's eldest brother looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. That attack just now contained the combined energy of all 7 of them. He believed that even a forbidden sky pride would not be able to come out unscathed. However, Chu Kuangren had shattered their combined energy with just a gentle slap and severely injured them. What kind of combat strength was this? Chu Kuangren's gentle slap had shocked the rest of the cultivators who harbored ill intentions to the point that they no longer dared to harbor any evil thoughts. If a gentle slap already had such power, how terrifying would it be if he unleashed his full strength? No one dared to imagine. Rumor has it that this person fought against several forbidden sky prides and defeated them one by one. It seems that the rumor is true. This is too terrifying. I can't believe this person really has such power. This person is definitely the forbidden of all forbidden. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren with only respect and fear left in their hearts. Chu Kuangren did not care about the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain. He walked straight ahead and was about to leave. However, at that moment, several extremely cold auras suddenly came from the distant sky. The terrifying Sword Dao aura locked onto Chu Kuangren. Oh, it's finally here. Chu Kuangren was not too surprised by the sudden arrival of the Sword Dao aura. A few sword rays flew over from the sky and landed in front of Chu Kuangren, turning into a few swordsmen with long swords in their hands. Following closely behind them were streaks of colorful sword gleams. The sword rays came one after another, surrounding Chu Kuangren from all sides. Many cultivators gulped at the sight. It's the swordsman. This kind of aura means that they're the elders of the swordsman. And the swordsman's swordsman. There are so many of them. There must be at least 10,000 of them. Oh my god, it's rare for the swordsman to make such a big move. It seems that they're all here to deal with Chu Kuangren. This is going to be interesting. The swordsmen were the top orthodoxy in the emperor's path. Since ancient times, not many dared to provoke the swordsmen, so they had never made any big moves. But today, they had mobilized a few elders and a large group of swordsmen to kill a young sky pride. This was something that had never happened before. Chu Kuangren, you destroyed the swordsman's Taoist clone and stole his opportunity of fortune. Today, you must die here. A white-bearded swordsman elder in a gray robe said loudly. His body emanated an extremely scorching Sword Dao aura, and his whole person was like a volcano that could erupt at any time. Chu Kuangren smiled. Why didn't Sword Daoist come himself? Is he so afraid that he doesn't even have the courage to face me? I don't need Sword Daoist to do anything to kill you. We're more than enough. Forget it. It doesn't matter if Sword Daoist comes or not. But is it just the swordsman? There must be other orthodoxies. Ha! A burst of laughter was heard as a ray of light flew over. Chapter 557. Ha! A burst of laughter filled the air, accompanied by an extremely powerful surge of spiritual power. A ray of light flew over and landed in front of Chu Kuangren. It was a white-haired old man in high spirits, and his body was suffused with a peerlessly overbearing aura. Chu Kuangren squinted. This aura far surpasses the average boundary emperor. An emperor? No, a boundary emperor that's infinitely close to an emperor? Good eye. It's the Bai family's senior elder, Bai Tianke. The old man, Bai Tianke, laughed and looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration. Although he was here to kill Chu Kuangren, that did not stop him from admiring him. A sky pride like him was too rare. Even the Bai family is here. Who else? The Wang family, the demonic tribe, and the nine-headed snakelet. Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back and looked around. Every time he called out a name, the crowd could not help but tremble. Each of them was a top-notch orthodoxy in the emperor's path. Basically, no one dared to provoke them. Chu Kuangren, the swordsmen are right. You must die here today. An indifferent voice reverberated in the void. Suddenly, a large dark cloud surged in the distance. That dark cloud was formed by the accumulation of an extremely majestic demonic chi. Under that demonic chi was a single-horned demon with a pair of demonic blood-colored eyes that stared at Chu Kuangren with an extremely cold murderous intent. It's him, one of the demonic tribe's elders in the emperor's path, Balha. Just like Bai Tianke, this person's cultivation level is infinitely close to an emperor. He can even be considered the strongest demonic tribe emperor. Look, it's not just Balha. It was not until the dark cloud gradually approached that the crowd saw that behind Balha was a large group of well-equipped demonic soldiers and a large group of ferocious demonic beasts. That was especially true of the three-headed hellhound beside Balha. Saliva trickled down the corners of its three heads as it stared at the cultivators below with a brutal look on its face. Any cultivator who made contact with its pair of blood-red eyes could not help but shiver. After Balha appeared with the group of demonic soldiers, a large five-colored ray of light appeared in the sky. With a cry, a multicolored peacock pierced through the clouds and flew over. On the peacock's back sat a woman dressed in gorgeous colorful clothes. The woman had a graceful and luxurious temperament. She wore a crown of pearls on her head, and every movement she made emitted a tyrannical spiritual energy fluctuation. I'm the matriarch of the Wang clan of the Emperor's Path. Chu Kuangren, if you stretch out your neck now, I'll let you die in one piece. The matriarch of the Wang clan said with an unquestionable tone. Behind her, Wang family cultivators walked out from the clouds one after another, their auras imposing. In this world, there is no one who can make me stretch out my neck to be killed. Do you think your Wang family is worthy? Chu Kuangren sneered. Then, he looked around and scanned everyone with his sharp gaze. Is there anyone else who wants to take my life? After a while, no one responded. The cultivators who did not want to get involved had already retreated. Chu Kuangren, if you're willing to hand over the treasures in the spiritual Qi Earth vein, perhaps we can let you off the hook. Or, if you're willing, you can marry into the Bai family like Xiao Jingchen. I guarantee that no one will hurt you. What do you say? Bai Tianke suddenly said. The crowd was speechless. They did not expect the Bai family to offer such a condition to Chu Kuangren. However, it was not surprising since Chu Kuangren's talents were too shocking. If they could recruit him, it would be a great help to any orthodoxy. Marry into the Bai family? Ha, do you think those repulsive people from the Bai family are worthy of me marrying into their family? Old man, have you lost your mind? Please find a place to clean yourself first before you talk to me. Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh out loud. Bai Tian's face sank when he heard that, and a cold murderous intent shot out from his eyes. In the crowd, Bai Hongyu heard that too. She was so angry that her whole body trembled. She glared at Chu Kuangren, wishing she could cut him into 1,000 pieces. She was also a lady of the Bai family. The repulsive people that Chu Kuangren was referring to undoubtedly included her. Chu Kuangren ignored Bai Tian's gloomy expression. He stared coldly at the cultivators from the various orthodoxies that surrounded him. The Wang family, Bai family, demonic tribe, and swordsman tribe are all famous ancient orthodoxies of the Emperor's Path. Today, you've joined forces to kill me. Ha, looks like you're all just unworthy of your name. Chu Kuangren, it's useless to talk about this now. Today, we must kill you. The demonic tribe's Bahar said, stopping the demonic realm from descending and stealing the opportunities of fortune from our sky prides, you and the demonic tribe are now mortal enemies. Chu Kuangren, you should know that treasures are a crime. Treasures may be great, but you must be alive to enjoy them. The swordsman tribe's elder sneered. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Chu Kuangren, you have no backing in the emperor's path, how are you going to fight us? The Wang family's mistress said coldly. She looked at Chu Kuangren with a condescending gaze as if she was looking at an ant that could be easily crushed. Backing? Backing? Ha! Chu Kuangren let out a long laugh, and a majestic surge of spiritual power suddenly erupted from his body. Terrifying Taoist rhymes also poured out and swept in all directions. Those who did not have a sufficient cultivation base were instantly swept away by the spiritual power and Taoist rhymes. The long swords in the hands of the swordsman tribe's cultivators were affected by Chu Kuangren's Taoist rhymes, and they trembled uncontrollably as if they were submitting to him in fear. Today, I shall show you what a backing is, and what a backing is. As he let out a long roar, the aura on Chu Kuangren's body increased once again, and an even more terrifying Taoist rhyme seeped out of his body. In the sky, dark clouds gathered, thunder rumbled, and the majestic aura of the heavens shrouded the entire place. Chu Kuangren stood under the thunder, and rays of divine light emanated from his body. It was as if he was the supreme deity king who controlled the heavens and earth. I am the backing. I am my own greatest backing. Chu Kuangren's expression was indifferent as he looked at all the cultivators at the scene. At that moment, all the cultivators felt an indescribable pressure. Some of the cultivators could not even control their trembling bodies, and they immediately fell to the ground, losing their will to fight. Kill! Seeing that, the swordsman tribe elder roared and unleashed a ray of sword chi, initiating the battle. Behind him, the swordsman tribe cultivators also charged towards Chu Kuangren with their razor-sharp sword chi. When Chu Kuangren saw that, he lifted his arm, and a ray of blue lightning shot out from his body. It first shattered the sword ray unleashed by the swordsman tribe elder, and then it swam among the swordsman tribe cultivators. One by one, the swordsman tribe cultivators were crushed by the lightning ray, and they were sent flying with blood spewing out of their mouths. What the hell is that? What a terrifying power! Is there something inside that lightning ray? The lightning ray swam around the swordsman tribe cultivators, sending more than 10 of them flying before it finally arrived in front of Chu Kuangren. When the lightning ray dissipated, a crystal-clear azure guqin with a gorgeous design appeared in front of everyone. It was the emperor weapon, Spring Thunder. Chu Kuangren placed all 10 of his fingers on the guqin strings, and with a loud clang, a simple guqin note erupted with an incredibly terrifying power. The few swordsman tribe cultivators who were the first to get close to Chu Kuangren were sent flying by the guqin note, and their bodies exploded. Chapter 558. An overbearing heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. The emperor weapon, Spring Thunder, hovered in front of him, and guqin music shook the heavens and earth. The swordsmen, demonic cultivators, and other cultivators' expressions changed when they saw that. Emperor weapon, guqin music. Everyone, be careful. Rumor has it that this person's musical Tao is extremely profound, and he once defeated the guqin demon and the painted ghost. So what if that's the case? With so many people here today, he won't be able to escape death no matter how powerful he is. That's right, the swordsman elder stared at Chu Kuangren coldly and made the first move. This elder was a cultivator of fire-based sword Tao, so when he made his move, a scorching and domineering sword Tao aura surged out and instantly locked onto Chu Kuangren. A single slash of his sword was accompanied by a terrifying sea of flames that could burn the heavens and earth. The sea of flames contained a dense amount of sword chi that surged towards Chu Kuangren. 8 celestial demonic cords, boundless expanse. The first movement of the 8 celestial demonic cords was unleashed, and the boundless atmosphere instantly suppressed the invading sea of flames, keeping it 100 feet away from Chu Kuangren. The rest of the cultivators also made their moves. The sword chi of the swordsman, the demonic chi of the demonic tribe, and the ferocious roaring demonic beasts all charged towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren plucked the Spring Thunder guqin with all 10 fingers, and the 8 celestial demonic chords continued to play. The terrifying guqin music Taoist rhymes poured out like a majestic ocean. Wind and rain, golden bell, ambush from 10 sides, the Guqin music became louder and louder, and the impact formed by the sound waves sent the oncoming cultivators flying. Countless Guqin music transformed into sharp blades that swept out in all directions like a storm. Many cultivators were killed by that force. Even a sage ruler could not withstand it. Chu Kuangren stood still on the spot. Every time he moved his fingers, countless cultivators would die under his Guqin music. This tyrannical combat power instantly stunned the surrounding cultivators. Such mastery of the Zither Tao is simply unbelievable. In the Emperor's path, the few orthodoxies in Seven Chord City are undoubtedly the most proficient in musical Tao. But even those orthodoxies' leaders do not have this level of attainment. How many more tricks does this guy have? The sound of the zither reverberated between heaven and earth. It was as if the only thing left in the world was the figure in white who was playing the zither. That person was playing the music of nature. His white robe was spotless, and he was surrounded by the sound of the zither. Wave after wave, it kept spreading out. It was an otherworldly and pleasing scene. However, outside the scene, countless cultivators were killed by the zither music and turned into a rain of blood. Beautiful and cruel. Sword incantation, fire meteor. The elder of the sword race hollered as the aura of the sword Tao on his body rose rapidly. With a slash of his sword, the sword chi transformed into a horrifying fireball in the void and smashed towards Chu Kuangren like a meteor. The power of this attack was comparable to that of a peak quasi-emperor. Even a forbidden prodigy might not be able to unleash such an attack. 8 celestial demonic cords, engulfing 10,000 miles. Chu Kuangren plucked the Guqin strings with his fingers, and a ferocious sound wave instantly erupted and blasted onto the fiery meteor. Accompanied by a majestic bang, the meteor suddenly exploded. The dispersing energy shock wave caused the surrounding void to tremble violently. What are you guys waiting for? The elder of the sword race yelled at Balha, Bai Tianke, and the Wang family's mistress. These people could be said to be the strongest among those present. Initially, they had planned to let the others attack first while they observed from the sidelines to gauge Chu Kuangren's strength. However, they did not expect his musical Tao to be this high. As soon as the zither music was released, a large number of cultivators were either injured or killed. It was impossible for them to get close. Zither music attacks were the most suitable for group battles. Let's do it. Since we're already here, there's no need to hold back. If we let this person live, he'll only be a threat in the future. Bai Tianke then attacked as well. He was the only one sent by the Bai family this time, but his strength was considered the highest among those present. He stood in the air, and with a lift of his arm, spiritual power surged. An extremely dense Taoist rhyme erupted from his body and formed into a giant seal in the void. It was one of the Bai family's emperor techniques, the heaven-worshipping seal. As soon as the heaven-worshipping seal landed, the surrounding void exploded, and a majestic shockwave swept out in all directions. Chu Kuangren was locked onto by the seal, and the surrounding space was instantly sealed. Double reverberation of heaven and earth. Chu Kuangren's 10 fingers plucked the strings, and the zither music Taoist rhyme became even more terrifying. It had entered a whole new realm. As the zither music echoed, the mountains and rivers trembled, and the heavens and earth resonated. Under the influence of such a powerful force, the heaven-worshipping seal was already shattered before it even landed. What terrifying zither music! Bai Tianke's pupils shrunk. Blade of Oblivion. At that moment, Balha also launched his attack. He held a long and narrow black saber in his hand, and with a single slash, a pitch-black saber ray instantly erupted and covered the entire sky. That slash was headed straight for Chu Kuangren. Upon seeing that, the Wang family's matriarch followed suit. She raised her hand, and a 5-colored radiance started to brew in her palm. 5 elements capturing technique. She unleashed a palm attack, and it turned into a giant colorful hand that carried a surge of 5 elements energy that could push everything in its path towards Chu Kuangren. Sword art, flaming meteor. The swordsman elder attacked again, and a scorching and domineering flaming sword ray shot out like a meteor. Not only him, but the other swordsman elders also attacked at the same time. The sword rays that they unleashed were all top-notch boundary emperors. In the face of such an attack, almost no one in the entire Emperor Road would be able to withstand it. The violent energy turbulence and Taoist rhymes intertwined in the void, forming a beautiful colorful ocean that surged towards Chu Kuangren. All the cultivators stared intently at that scene. I don't think this B***starred can withstand it anymore. The same thought appeared in all the cultivators' minds at the same time. Meanwhile, sky prides like Bai Hongyu, Xiao Jingchen, and Tu Heng stared at Chu Kuangren with hope in their eyes. They could not wait for Chu Kuangren to die just like that. If he continued to live, the pressure on them would be too great. In other words, as long as Chu Kuangren was around, they would not have any hope of becoming an emperor. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Chu Kuangren, who was facing an attack that he had never seen before, slowly spoke with an indifferent expression. Final 8 Celestial Demonic Chords, Grand Note of Silence. The Great Tao is the simplest, grand note of silence. An unimaginably powerful Guqin music Taoist rhyme erupted under the support of the Emperor weapon, Spring Thunder. No one knew how to describe this Guqin music. All they knew was that this Guqin music had surpassed the enjoyment of the senses, and it went straight for their souls. It was a silent shock. However, when this unbelievably majestic Guqin music Taoist rhyme collided with the energy released by the cultivators, it turned into an earth-shattering explosion. Colorful energy collided in the air and exploded like fireworks. Shockwaves swept out in all directions, and countless cultivators were sent flying by the shockwaves. Chu Kuangren, the Wang family's matriarch, the swordsman elder, Bai Tianke, and the others were the first to bear the brunt of the impact. Chapter 559. The matriarch of the Wang clan, Balha, the swordsman clan elder, Bai Tianke, and a few other boundary emperors who were close to becoming emperors were blasted away by the impact of the Guqin Taoist rhyme and the collision of their respective energies. The terrifying energy even destroyed the ground tens of thousands of kilometers behind them. It was as if a natural disaster had passed through. Chu Kuangren was not unscathed by such an impact either. His body was blasted away, and his supreme sage body was shaken as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Although he was injured, he recovered in the next second with the help of his immortal body. Although his physical body was unscathed, he had expended a lot of spiritual power. He could only use the gluttonous devouring technique to refine the cultivator corpses around him. However, at his cultivation level, the gluttonous devouring technique, which was only a sage ruler technique, was outdated to him. Countless cultivators were refined and turned into spiritual power, but it was only a small amount. He was still a distance away from his peak state. Chu Kuangren, no matter how strong you are, how long can you last against so many people? The swordsman clan elder wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and snorted. The others stared at Chu Kuangren as well. They did not expect him to be able to withstand their combined attack. With such combat strength, none of them would be a match for Chu Kuangren in a one-on-one fight. For a sky pride to reach such a level of combat strength, it was something that they dared not imagine in the past. Ha, why don't you give it a try? Chu Kuangren stood in the air, surrounded by enemies, but his arrogance did not diminish. He was treating everyone in this world as if they were nothing. The matriarch of the Wang clan's expression darkened, and she took out an item. It was a 5-colored bell with an extremely gorgeous design. Mountains, rivers, and beasts were carved on it, and mysterious Taoist rhymes surrounded it. The 5-elemental mountain river bell. The cultivators present could not help but be surprised. The 5-elemental mountain river bell was one of the Wang clan's trump cards. It was an emperor weapon related to the 5-elemental Daos. This emperor weapon was extremely powerful. The moment it appeared, the surrounding void began to emit the 5-elemental radiance, illuminating all directions. At the side, the elder of the sword race took in a deep breath. Since the mistress of the Wang family has brought out such a trump card, our sword race shall not continue to hide it then. As he raised his hand, beams of golden light condensed in his palm. A golden longsword that exuded a thick emperor's aura suddenly appeared out of thin air. This was also a monarch weapon. Chu Kuangren, I'll show you the power of my swordsman's emperor weapon, the golden emperor's sword. The swordsman tribe elder sneered. He then raised his hand and activated the golden emperor's sword in his hand before he swung it at Chu Kuangren. A dazzling golden sword light flew out, as if it wanted to tear apart the heavens and earth, obliterating the mountains and rivers in all directions. The matriarch of the Wang family was not to be outdone. She let out a low shout and the giant bell above her shook. A deep and resounding bell sound instantly erupted. In the blink of an eye, the sound of the bell reverberated and the surrounding mountains and rivers crumbled. Surges of the five elements' energy swept towards Chu Kuangren in an overwhelming manner. In the hands of two emperors whose strength was infinitely close to the emperor realm, the power unleashed by the two emperor weapons was almost invincible. However, Chu Kuangren still looked calm and composed in the face of such an attack. Out of nowhere, a black armor had appeared on his body. That armor contained an endless ferocious qi and battle intent, and it was extremely powerful. It was the innate ferocious armor. Following that, a golden longsword appeared in Chu Kuangren's hand. The blade of the sword was surging with an endless amount of sharpness. Among the crowd, a cultivator of the Sima clan could not help but exclaim when he saw that emperor weapon. It's the emperor weapon, Golden Palace. The emperor weapon, Golden Palace, was the emperor weapon of the Sima clan. During the battle at Sky Lake Mountain, the Sima clan's head wielded this sword to kill Chu Kuangren. However, he was killed by Chu Kuangren instead, and the sword eventually fell into Chu Kuangren's hands. All this while, Chu Kuangren had kept this emperor weapon in the sacred emerald sword case. With the help of the sword case, Chu Kuangren had long refined it. Let me show you what kind of power the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart can unleash with this emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren said calmly. In an instant, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's 3 Taoist physique transformations activated, and an extremely terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. That Taoist rhyme combined with the Golden Palace sword in his hand and resonated with it. A crisp and melodious sword chime echoed through the clouds and into the sky. Heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. With a single slash, Chu Kuangren unleashed the sword technique that he had been using ever since he started cultivating. With the emperor weapon, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, and the supreme sage foundation level, the power of that sword ray was unparalleled. No one could describe how amazing that sword ray was. As the sword ray flashed past, it was as if everything between heaven and earth was about to be annihilated by it. The supreme sword chi shook the heavens and earth. The power of the 3 emperor weapons collided violently in the void, and the power this time was even more terrifying than before. However, it was obvious that the power of Chu Kuangren's sword chi far surpassed that of the Wang clan's matriarch and the swordsman's elder. He had completely refined the emperor weapon, Golden Palace sword, and the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was already very compatible with it. On the other hand, although the swordsman's elder and the Wang clan's matriarch had emperor weapons with them, they had yet to gain the emperor weapon's recognition and could not fully refine it. Hence, the power that they could unleash was limited. Moreover, Chu Kuangren's foundation was not weaker than theirs. Even with 2 emperor weapons, they could not withstand Chu Kuangren's attack. The majestic sword chi swept out towards the Wang clan's matriarch and the swordsman's elder. It was not hard to imagine that if that sword strike landed on them, they would not be able to escape death no matter how high their cultivation levels were. At that moment, Bai Tianke took a step forward and took out a prismatic crystal. The crystal let out waves of dazzling white light, and a white prismatic chi barrier instantly enveloped them. Amidst the explosion, the barrier and the sword chi collided violently. The entire barrier trembled. Bai Tianke's face turned slightly pale. What a terrifying sword chi! Oh, a defensive emperor weapon? Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. Looks like you guys are willing to go all out just to kill me. I can't believe you guys brought 3 emperor weapons. No, 4 of them. Sensing something, Chu Kuangren swung the golden fault sword to the side. With a loud clang, surges of chi shot out. The golden fault sword in Chu Kuangren's hand collided with a dark red longsword. The longsword was surging with a terrifying surge of resentment chi. There was even a strong surge of Emperor's aura mixed within it. Obviously, it was also an Emperor weapon, and the person who wielded it was Bahar. For Emperor weapons, for cultivators who were infinitely close to becoming emperors. Such a lineup was more than enough to kill an emperor. Now, it was used to deal with Chu Kuangren. This is ridiculous. I can't believe something like this can happen. The spectating cultivators could not help but be speechless. The scene before them was one of the rarest in the emperor's path. The sword and the longsword vibrated at the same time, and Bahar and Chu Kuangren were both pushed back. Chu Kuangren, I've long heard that you have a few emperor weapons with you. Looks like it's true. Bahar stared at Chu Kuangren with greed in his eyes. The emperor weapons, spring thunder, golden fault sword, innate ferocious armor. By then, Chu Kuangren had already taken out 3 emperor weapons. Who knew if he still had other emperor weapons in his possession? Even the weaker ancient orthodoxies did not have such resources. Chapter 560. Kill him, and we'll split the opportunities of fortune with him. The swordsman elder said with a fiery gaze. Initially, they were only here to kill Chu Kuangren and the treasures in the spiritual chi vein. However, they realized that the benefits they could obtain from killing Chu Kuangren were far beyond their imagination. The emperor weapons alone were more than enough for them to split among themselves. He may have a lot of emperor weapons, but how many of them can he wield alone? The 4 of us can wield 1 emperor weapon each, and will definitely be able to kill him. Balha said. Chu Kuangren smirked when he heard their discussion. No one in this world can kill me. You flatter me. The Wang clan's mistress snorted and continued to attack Chu Kuangren with the 5 elements mountain river bell. However, at that moment, mysterious blue runes suddenly condensed in the sky. Endless dark clouds gathered, and the runes turned into lightning swords. Like a torrential downpour, they shot toward the cultivators of the orthodoxies. Oh no! The expressions of the Wang clan's mistress and the others changed. Countless lightning swords were unleashed, and many cultivators died on the spot. Chu Kuangren chuckled. I'm not going to play with you guys anymore. I'll pay you a visit when I'm free. The Wang clan's mistress and the others had powerful cultivation levels, and with the emperor weapons in their hands, it was not an easy task for Chu Kuangren to kill them. Instead of continuing the battle, it was better for him to leave first. Once he had refined the white spirit divine fruit and the earth vein's primordial essence, it would be easier for him to settle the score. If he wanted to leave, no one in this world could stop him. Oh no, he's leaving. The Wang clan's mistress' expression changed, and the others immediately reacted and tried to stop him. However, at that moment, a terrifying aura appeared in the sky. A rune that was more mysterious than the others was formed. Amidst the flashes of lightning, a ferocious lightning dragon suddenly emerged from the clouds. It was the Emperor-grade Thunder Talisman. This Thunder Talisman is not to be underestimated. Bai Tian-Ke once again took out the prismatic crystal and activated the defensive chi barrier to cover everyone. The majestic lightning dragon descended and smashed into the defensive barrier. The lightning energy that spread out instantly killed and wounded countless cultivators from the several orthodoxies. Only a few cultivators who were lucky enough to be inside the energy shield managed to survive. As for the others, none of them were spared. Seizing this opportunity, a mysterious spatial fluctuation appeared on Chu Kuangren's body, and he instantly disappeared. It was the space transportation technique that he had not used for a long time. Since the spatial structure within the Emperor's Road was different from the outside world, Chu Kuangren took a long time to adapt and analyze the space within. At this moment, he could finally use the space conveyance technique in this Emperor's Road. Damn it, it's gone. This is a spatial technique. He is a genius from the outside world. How can he use spatial techniques in the Emperor's Road? Damn it. The swordsman tribe elder, the Wang family's matriarch, and the others were so furious that their faces turned green. Their spiritual thoughts instantly surged and covered a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers as they searched for Chu Kuangren. However, since Chu Kuangren had already left, how could he let them find him so easily? Whether it was the teleportation range of his space conveyance technique or his concealment technique, the swordsman tribe elder and the others could not easily find him. After a fruitless search, the swordsman tribe elder and the others looked at the dead and injured cultivators around them and could not help but fall silent. We have underestimated this person. Let's join forces and search for this person. We must not let him live. Otherwise, when the Emperor's Mountain opens in the future, with his talent, there's a high chance that he will become an emperor. That's right. We must not let this happen. The few orthodoxies had reached a consensus on dealing with Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was too much of a threat. As long as he was alive, they would not be able to live in peace. It's a pity that the emperors are restricted by the Emperor's Road, so they can't leave the ancestors' land to deal with Chu Kuangren. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let him leave so easily. Perhaps only the heavenly pardon order can deal with this person. The Wang family's matriarch murmured. Upon hearing her words, the others' eyes lit up. Due to the restrictions of the Emperor's Road, the emperors of the ancestors' land could not leave the ancestors' land, let alone deal with the Sky Prides. The Heavenly Pardon Order was a treasure that could remove this restriction. As long as they had the Heavenly Pardon Order, the emperors could kill anyone and do anything they wanted in the Emperor's Road. The Heavenly Pardon Order can only be found in the barren Forbidden Area. It's time for the Sky Prides to explore it. If they're lucky enough, not only can they find the Heavenly Pardon Order, they might even have a chance to fight against Chu Kuangren. The swordsman tribe elder said. That's right. Aside from the core zone, the barren Forbidden Area's restrictions have all disappeared. It's time. The swordsman tribe elder and the others looked at the Sky Prides with anticipation. Meanwhile, Bai Hongyu, Xiao Jingchen, Tu Heng, and the others were excited when they heard that. The barren Forbidden Area is the legendary great opportunity of fortune of the Emperor's Road. We must enter it to find a way to fight against Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, on the path to becoming an emperor, a temporary lead is nothing. The one who laughs last is the one who laughs the best. The Sky Prides of the various restrictions had different thoughts, but they were all looking forward to the rumored barren Forbidden Area. The incident at the Thousand Wonders Paradise was over. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's name had spread throughout the Emperor's Road. Everyone knew that an incredible being had arrived at the Emperor's Road, one who could single-handedly defeat the combined forces of a group of forbidden Sky Prides. So much so that even a few ancient orthodoxies could not do anything to this person. Congratulations, host. You've drawn the legendary Doctor's Inheritance. After leaving the Thousand Wonders Paradise, Chu Kuangren took the time to draw a prize. Doctor's Inheritance? This looks quite useful. Chu Kuangren then extracted the inheritance from it. In his mind, all the information about this inheritance and a large amount of knowledge related to Medicine Dao suddenly appeared. Myriad Medicine Scroll, Theory of Weeds, 1,000 Gold Illustration, Rootless Water, countless knowledge related to Medicine Dao gushed into his mind, instantly shaping Chu Kuangren into a top-notch doctor. At the same time, this doctor's inheritance also included a large number of methods to utilize water qi. Every doctor had their own unique medical techniques, and the inheritance that Chu Kuangren had obtained required most of its medical techniques to be completed with water qi. TSK, fortunately I have the Transcendent Coalescence and the Empyrean Neptune's Halberd, so I'm already good at manipulating water qi. Otherwise, I would have to learn another technique to manipulate water qi after obtaining this inheritance. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. Overall, this doctor's inheritance did help him to a certain extent. Alright, now I have another profession. Chu Kuangren shook his head and smiled. In addition to the alchemy master's inheritance that he had previously obtained, the combination of alchemy and medicine Dao, Chu Kuangren's ability to save people was no weaker than his combat ability. I can kill with one hand and live with the other. Ha, how many people in this world are as capable as I am? Chu Kuangren was in a good mood as he laughed. Then, His figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. Chapter 561. With a loud boom, a few sky prides were blasted away by a terrifying force. When the crowd looked closely, they saw Chu Kuangren hovering in mid-air with thousands of rays of divine light shining on his body like a supreme godly king. In an instant, everyone at the scene was shocked and dumbfounded. Who would have thought that besides the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, Chu Kuangren also has the infallible tormented physique and the transcendent coalescence Taoist physique? Inside a restaurant, a storyteller was narrating Chu Kuangren's stories in a vivid and colorful manner. The crowd below the stage listened with great interest, their eyes filled with admiration. Chu Kuangren single-handedly fought against 5 forbidden sky prides and even emerged victorious. This was something that they did not even dare to imagine. Is it really as exaggerated as you say? Of course, some people were skeptical. After all, the rumored Chu Kuangren was too powerful. This little old man wouldn't dare to lie. Countless cultivators outside the Thousand Wonders Paradise have witnessed Chu Kuangren's strength. How could I make it up? The old storyteller smiled faintly. There were some female cultivators in the crowd, and one of them asked curiously, I heard that Chu Kuangren is very handsome, and few people in this world can compare to him. Is that true? The little old man smiled and said, I've seen Chu Kuangren before, and I can tell you with certainty that he's not just a person who can compare to him. He's like a celestial being, handsome, with sharp eyebrows and an extraordinary temperament. He's like a celestial being who has descended to the mortal world. That's too fake. How can anyone have such exaggerated looks? I never lie. You'll find out once you go out and ask around. Every cultivator who has seen Chu Kuangren has praised his looks, and the female cultivators who have seen him can't forget him either, the little old man said emotionally as he stroked his beard. Hearing his description, the eyes of the female cultivators were filled with yearning. It would be great if I could meet such a person. In the corner of the crowd, a person was calmly drinking. That person's face was covered with a faint spiritual light, and his face could not be seen clearly. He listened to the little old man's storytelling and chuckled from time to time. Although his behavior was a little strange, no one paid attention to him. And that person was none other than Chu Kuangren. After he left the Thousand Wonders Grotto Heaven, he wanted to find a place to settle down temporarily and refine the essence of the wood element meridian as well as the white spirit divine fruit. Unknowingly, he had come here and came in to drink some wine. Coincidentally, he heard someone talking about his deeds and sat down to listen for a while out of curiosity. I don't believe that Chu Kuangren is as exaggerated as you make him out to be. At this moment, a cold snort came from the crowd. A red-clothed woman said from the window with a disdainful look on her face. This woman was dressed in a fiery red robe. Her face was exquisite, and her skin was delicate. Her figure was curvaceous, and her black hair hung down to her waist. It turns out that the noble ladies of the 7 Emotions sect have come down for a drink. Sorry for the neglect. The innkeeper of the restaurant hurriedly went up to him with a flattering expression. Many people were surprised to hear his words. The 7 Emotions sect was one of the few ancient orthodoxies in the Emperor Road. The wine is not bad, but that storyteller keeps going on and on about how powerful that Chu Kuangren is. I'm starting to get annoyed. The red-clothed woman said with a frown. Throughout the day, she had lost count of how many times she had heard Chu Kuangren's name from her sect to the city. It was really annoying. He was just a man. What was there to brag about? Yes, I'll send this old man away now, the innkeeper said. Hey, every word I said is true. I heard that the 7 Emotions sect's maiden sage has also been smitten by Chu Kuangren. Hearing that, the red-clothed woman frowned. Wait a minute, what did you say just now? I said that the 7 Emotions sect's maiden sage has also been smitten by Chu Kuangren. Nonsense. Senior sister cultivates the emotionless Tao. How can there be a man in this world who can move her heart? Be careful, or I'll tear your mouth apart. The old man quickly covered his mouth and said, that's what the outside world is saying. They're just a bunch of idiots who only know how to spread rumors. How dare you ruin my senior sister's reputation? If you dare to talk about this matter again in the Seven Emotions sect's territory, I'll kill you with one palm. The red-clothed woman glared at the old man and said, Yes, I won't do it again. As for the rest of you, you're not allowed to talk about this matter anymore. If I hear you, you'll have to bear the consequences. Understood. The crowd quickly agreed. D*MN it, I'm so angry. How dare he tarnish my senior sister's reputation like this? That Chu Kuangren better not let me see him, or I'll beat him to death. The red-clothed woman was so angry that she took a few gulps of wine. Not far away, Chu Kuangren took a sip of wine gloomily. He felt like he had been implicated. Nothing had happened between him and Leng Ningyu, yet this red-clothed woman was now targeting him. But I didn't expect the Seven Emotions sect to be nearby. If they really have something to do with those scrolls, perhaps it's worth paying them a visit. Chu Kuangren murmured. Leng Ningyu had mentioned before that his Raging God Fist was very similar to the Emperor techniques of the Seven Emotions sect, and he had obtained this Raging God Fist from a scroll. He suspected that the Seven Emotions sect had similar scrolls as well. If these scrolls were combined, it would form a very powerful cultivation technique. That was worth Chu Kuangren's attention. There's no harm in paying them a visit. Who knows, there might be unexpected gains. Chu Kuangren thought to himself and decided to postpone the refinement of the White Spirit Divine Fruit and the Earth Vein Essence for now. At that thought, Chu Kuangren glanced at the red-clothed woman. He hoped that he would not bump into this arrogant woman when he went to visit them. He did not want to cause any trouble. Although he was not afraid of the Seven Emotions sect, there was no need for him to make enemies everywhere. Waiter, bill please. After Chu Kuangren paid for the wine, he turned around and left the restaurant. The Seven Emotions sect was located in a mountain range. At the end of the mountain range was a towering mountain that pierced through the clouds. It gave off a sense of loneliness and was very eye-catching among the other mountains. This mountain was where the Seven Emotions sect was located, and it was called the Seven Emotions Peak. Soon, Chu Kuangren arrived at the foot of the Seven Emotions Peak. Before he could officially enter, a few rays of light flew towards him and turned into a few disciples. Halt, this is the Seven Emotions sect. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. The few disciples looked at Chu Kuangren with caution in their eyes. The spiritual light on Chu Kuangren's face dissipated and he took out the jade token that Leng Ningyu had given him in the past. He said, I'm here to visit Brother Leng. Brother Leng? One of the disciples was slightly stunned. He then took the jade token from Chu Kuangren and his expression changed. This is the Maiden Sage token. The Maiden Sage token was held by the Seven Emotions sect's Maiden Sage. It was a symbol of status. Of course, this token was useless to outsiders. Otherwise, Leng Ningyu would not have given it to Chu Kuangren so easily. However, the disciples were shocked that Chu Kuangren had the Maiden Sage token that Leng Ningyu always carried with her. What was his relationship with the Maiden Sage? Chapter 562. Why do you have the Maiden Sage token? Who are you? One of the disciples could not help but ask. My name is Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren. The disciples' expressions changed again when they heard that. If one were to ask who was the most famous person in the Emperor's path, it would undoubtedly be Chu Kuangren. Even the Forbidden Sky Prides were no match for Chu Kuangren, and the ancient orthodoxies were able to easily repel him. Not many people in the Emperor's path could compare to Chu Kuangren's achievements. Please wait for a moment. I'll inform the Maiden Sage. One of the disciples took the Maiden Sage token and disappeared in a flash of light. Chu Kuangren was not in a hurry as he waited on the spot. However, not long after, footsteps could be heard behind Chu Kuangren. At the same time, a strong smell of alcohol filled the air. This aura, Chu Kuangren looked behind him with a strange expression. He saw that the red-robed lady who threatened to beat him up in the restaurant earlier was approaching the mountain gate with a flushed face and a drunken hiccup. The smell of alcohol on her made people want to avoid her. Just how much did this guy drink? Chu Kuangren could not help but take 2 steps back. However, after he took a step back, the red-robed lady's eyes lit up when she saw him. She walked up to him and hooked her arm around his shoulder. She then lifted his chin and said drunkenly, "Oh, I didn't know there was such a handsome young man in the 7 Emotions sect. Isn't he better than that Chu Kuangren?" Chu Kuangren's mouth twitched as he pushed her hand away and took 2 steps back. "Oh, young man, you're quite shy. Which lineage are you from? Tell me, I'll take care of you from now on." The red-robed lady smiled. Her interest was piqued and she tried even harder to tease Chu Kuangren. The drunken lady was very different from the spoiled girl Chu Kuangren saw in the inn. She looked more languid now. "Senior Sister Red Moon, this Taoist is not from the 7 Emotions sect. He's here to look for the maiden sage." "Looking for Senior Sister? Stop joking. Other than that idiot from the swordsman, who else would look for Senior Sister?" The red-robed lady, who was Red Moon, waved her hand with a "stop joking" expression. "He's Chu Kuangren," the disciple said. "Who is he? Say that again." "Chu Kuangren," the disciple repeated. Chi Yu took a deep breath and began circulating his spiritual energy, quickly evaporating the alcohol in his body. Amidst the rising smell of alcohol, Red Moon's eyes became more and more awake. Her lazy look disappeared as she stared at Chu Kuangren and sneered. "You're the one who tarnished Senior Sister's reputation, aren't you? This has nothing to do with me. Tarnishing Senior Sister's reputation, you deserve a beating." Without another word, Red Moon immediately made his move. He raised his hand and unleashed a punch. His spiritual power, which was mixed with the smell of alcohol, swept towards Chu Kuangren. The power wasn't great, and it was more like a test. Just as the fist energy was about to land on Chu Kuangren's body, his figure suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Red Moon's punch hit empty air. "Oh, a spatial technique, interesting." Red Moon's spiritual thought gushed out and soon locked onto Chu Kuangren's location. He was right above her head. Again. Another punch was thrown out, but Chu Kuangren did not even bother to look at it. His figure once again disappeared from the spot. "You're so good at hiding." Red Moon frowned. This time, she channeled her spiritual power and an overbearing Taoist rhyme instantly erupted, enveloping the space around Chu Kuangren. Heart-rending claw. As soon as she spoke, a great sorrow intent erupted from Red Moon's body. She clawed at the void as if she was going to tear it apart. 5 claw energies streaked across the void and landed on Chu Kuangren. "Oh, it's a sorrowful intent." Chu Kuangren felt a heart-wrenching pain from his opponent's claw attack. Evidently, this was a cultivation technique that was related to emotions. Not only that, but when his opponent displayed this technique, he felt his heart palpitate. That feeling told him that this cultivation technique came from the same source as his own heart-piercing finger, Heaven's morning palm, and Raging God's fist. "It seems like I made the right decision to come here," Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Then, a spatial fluctuation appeared. Chu Kuangren broke free from Red Moon's energy seal and disappeared once again. With Red Moon's cultivation level, she was still far from being able to seal him. "What? Where is he?" Red Moon's expression changed as she looked for Chu Kuangren everywhere. "Here." At that moment, Chu Kuangren's voice came from behind her. She instinctively turned around and unleashed a palm attack. However, just as she unleashed her palm attack, it was shattered by an even more terrifying force, causing her to involuntarily take a few steps back. By the time Red Moon stabilized her body, 2 fingers were already pressed against her throat. Sharp sword chi circulated at the fingertips, cutting off a strand of her silky hair. Chi Yu gulped as cold sweat dripped from his forehead. She knew very well that if Chu Kuangren wanted to, he could not only cut off her silky hair, but also her head. "If you attack again, I'll have to fight back," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Beside him, a few 7 Emotions sect disciples' expressions changed as they took out their weapons and were about to step forward to help. Stand down. However, Red Moon coldly yelled and ordered the disciples to step back. Are you stupid? Even I'm no match for him, what's the use of you? Chu Kuangren put down his hand and said, I came to visit with no ill intentions. As for the rumors in the outside world, it has nothing to do with me. No matter what, my senior sister's reputation has been tarnished because of you. Red Moon then looked at Chu Kuangren from head to toe and muttered, you really are as good as the rumors say. You really are good looking. The innocent are innocent. No matter what the outside world says, it doesn't affect me. Red Moon, you shouldn't make things difficult for Brother Chu because of this. At that moment, an indifferent voice came from behind them. All they saw was Leng Ningyu walking in the air. Her temperament was cold and otherworldly, and her expression was as cold as ice. Senior sister, you're here. I'm just trying to help you vent your anger, right? You're too reckless. If honorable teacher finds out, he'll definitely punish you. It's fine. I'll just hide behind you, honorable teacher won't bear to hit you. Red Moon smiled. It seemed like she had a good relationship with Leng Ningyu. Leng Ningyu seemed to be a little helpless towards Red Moon and ignored him. Brother Chu, how have you been? Leng Ningyu looked at Chu Kuangren. Her indifferent eyes had a slight change in them. These days, whenever she returned and meditated, Chu Kuangren's figure would always appear in her mind. She could not understand why. She had only seen him twice, so why was she unable to forget him? Was it because he had saved her life before? Red Moon looked at Leng Ningyu and then at Chu Kuangren. She had a thoughtful look on her face. Could it be that senior sister's heart has been moved? Oh my God, this is bad. Red Moon was so shocked by this discovery that she almost bit her tongue. Brother Leng, I've been invited here. Please come in. Honorable teacher and the others are already waiting for you inside. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and followed Leng Ningyu into the Seven Emotions sect. Is he the Chu Kuangren who has been the talk of the Emperor's path lately? He looks really extraordinary. But other than being a little more handsome than me, I don't see anything special about him. Can he really defeat the Forbidden Sky Prides? I wonder what this person is doing here at the Seven Emotions sect. Along the way, many people were secretly observing Chu Kuangren curiously. Chapter 563. Inside the Grand Hall of the Seven Emotions sect. The current sect leader of the Seven Emotions sect, Cold Moon Fairy, was waiting for Chu Kuangren with a curious look in her eyes. Is he the legendary Sky Pride that escaped from the four ancient orthodoxies, the Swordsmen, the Demons, the Bai clan, and the Wang clan? I wonder what kind of person he is. Cold Moon Fairy murmured. Not long after, she saw Leng Ningyu, Red Moon, and the others walking towards the Grand Hall. Behind Red Moon and Leng Ningyu was a white-robed young man. The young man had black hair and a white robe. He was handsome and had a faint smile on his face. His every movement had an otherworldly aura. It was as if he was a celestial being who could ascend to heaven at any time. A hint of amazement appeared in the Cold Moon Fairy's eyes. She had seen her fair share of handsome men in her life, and there were even more handsome men who pursued her when she was younger. The queue could stretch from the entrance of the Seven Emotions sect all the way to the Emperor Mountain. However, none of those handsome men could compare to Chu Kuangren. It turned out that such an otherworldly man really existed in this world. If someone like Chu Kuangren had pursued her in the past, she would not have been single until now. The Cold Moon Fairy sighed. At that thought, she suddenly felt a surge of heat rising from her lower abdomen. Cold Moon Fairy frowned. It can't be. We've only just met and the fire poison is already showing signs of acting up. This man is too evil. She channeled her spiritual power to suppress the fire poison in her body. Meanwhile, Leng Ningyu and Red Moon had already brought Chu Kuangren into the Grand Hall. Chu Kuangren glanced at the Cold Moon deity and was surprised to see the redness on her face that had just receded. What happened? Red Moon's expression changed slightly. Honorable teacher, are you all right? Leng Ningyu's expression did not change much, but there was still a questioning look in her eyes. I'm fine. Cold Moon Fairy waved her hand and looked at Chu Kuangren with a smile. Brother Chu, you've come from afar. Sorry for not welcoming you. Cold Moon Fairy, you're too kind. As he spoke, Chu Kuangren had already activated his Eye of Revelation to secretly observe Cold Moon Fairy's condition. The Cold Moon Fairy is a peak quasi-emperor who specializes in the Tao of emotions. She is poisoned by the fire desire poison and often suffers from the pain of being burned by the poisonous fire. Chu Kuangren's eyes were filled with surprise. Fire desire poison? He didn't expect the Cold Moon Fairy to be poisoned like this. No wonder Leng Ningyu asked him for the heavenly ice python's horn. That horn was a cold-attributed treasure that could be used to restrain the fire desire poison. I've heard from Ningyu that fellow Taoist Chu has an emperor art that can induce emotions. I wonder if you can show it to me. Cold Moon Fairy didn't stand on ceremony and asked directly. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and did not bother about the fire desire poison anymore. It was obviously a private matter, so it was inappropriate for him to bring it up. He raised his hand and activated the Taoist rhyme of the Raging God Fist. A wave of anger manifested and intertwined in the void, turning into a black fist mark burning with anger. The Cold Moon Fairy's eyes lit up when she saw the fist mark. This energy is indeed the cultivation technique recorded in that scroll. So the 7 Emotions sect has that scroll too. I wonder how many of them do you have? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. How many do you have then, Brother Chu? The Cold Moon Fairy asked with a smile. 3 of them. Chu Kuangren answered honestly without hiding anything. The Cold Moon Fairy's eyes lit up when she heard that. I didn't expect you to have 3 of them. Looks like you're quite lucky, Brother Chu. The 7 Emotions sect has 5 of them. The Cold Moon Fairy answered honestly. Many of the 7 Emotions sect's disciples were out in the world, so many people knew about their emperor arts. There was no need for the 7 Emotions sect to hide it from Chu Kuangren. Things like this could be easily found out with a little investigation. 5 of them, plus the 3 I have, that's 8 of them. Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat. There were a total of 9 scrolls, and when combined, it was an incredibly powerful cultivation technique that surpassed all the emperor arts that were known in the firmament star. That kind of method was too mysterious. Chu Kuangren even suspected that it might be a cultivation technique that was related to immortals. If he could gather all of them, it would be a great help to him. Initially, he only had 3 scrolls with him, and he did not know how long he would have to wait to gather all of them. However, if he added the 5 scrolls that the 7 Emotions sect had, he would be halfway through the process. All that was left was the last scroll. I'm sure the 7 Emotions sect wouldn't want to miss out on these 3 scrolls. Cold Moon Fairy, I'll be straight to the point. I'm willing to exchange these 3 scrolls with the 7 Emotions sect for the rest of the scrolls. What do you think? Chu Kuangren said. He already knew the emperor arts on the scrolls anyway, so the scrolls themselves were not important anymore. These emperor arts are related to the foundation of the 7 Emotions sect. I'll have to discuss this with the elders in the sect. The Cold Moon Fairy smiled and said to Leng Ningyu, Ningyu, Brother Chu has come from afar. Why don't you bring him around for a while? All right. Leng Ningyu nodded and left with Chu Kuangren. Only Red Moon and the Cold Moon Fairy were left in the Grand Hall. Looking at Chu Kuangren's departing figure, the Cold Moon deity could not help but lament, I didn't expect such an extraordinary man to exist in this world. Just by looking at him, I almost fell in love with him and got burned by the fire poison. Beside her, Red Moon was a little embarrassed. Honorable teacher, you're the sect leader of the 7 Emotions sect. Mind your image. What can I do? This damn fire poison is just like that. I can't even fall for it. If there's anything to blame, it's Chu Kuangren's too good looking. The Cold Moon Fairy pouted and said. I really can't refute that. Red Moon was speechless too. Then, she thought of something and told the Cold Moon Fairy about Leng Ningyu's strange behavior. After listening to Red Moon's story, the Cold Moon Fairy's eyes lit up. You're saying that Ningyu might have fallen for him? Yes, I can't say for sure, but it seems like it. Red Moon was a little worried. That's a good thing. The Cold Moon Fairy's face was filled with joy. This made Red Moon a little confused. Honorable teacher, how is this a good thing? Senior sister cultivates the path of forgetfulness. Once she falls in love, it'll have a huge impact on her path of cultivation. The most important thing about the path of forgetfulness is the word forgetfulness. However, Ningyu is born with little emotions. She has never experienced true love before. Since she has never experienced it before, how can she forget about it? This is also the reason why her path of forgetfulness has never been able to reach full mastery. However, if she can really fall in love with someone this time and then forget about them, then her path of forgetfulness will truly reach full mastery. An incomplete path of forgetfulness could already create a forbidden sky pride. If she could reach full mastery of the path of forgetfulness, then Leng Ningyu's future achievements would be limitless. This was also the reason why the Cold Moon Fairy was so happy. TSK, I thought there's no man in this world who can move Ningyu's heart. This Chu Kuangren is a good choice. At the thought of Chu Kuangren, the fire poison that the Cold Moon Fairy had suppressed with great difficulty seemed to burn again. How troublesome. Honorable teacher, that Daoist Li should be here soon. This time, senior sister brought back the celestial frost python's corpse. Perhaps he really has a way to remove the fire poison in your body. Perhaps, but to be honest, I really don't want to invite him here. The Cold Moon Fairy sighed helplessly. Chapter 564. Inside the Seven Emotions sect, Leng Ningyu was taking Chu Kuangren around. Both of them were extraordinary people, and when they stood together, they really gave off the feeling of a celestial couple. The surrounding disciples could not help but be envious when they saw them. Leng Ningyu's image in the Seven Emotions sect had always been high and mighty, an untainted fairy. Aside from Red Moon and the Cold Moon deity, even the few elders and core Taoists were not close to her. After all, not many people would be so close to someone they had no feelings for. But this didn't stop people from fantasizing about her, so there were quite a few people who secretly admired Leng Ningyu. However, no one had ever heard of her being close to any man. It was the first time for the people of the Seven Emotions sect to see a scene like today where Leng Ningyu personally led a couple around the Seven Emotions sect. Brother Chu, this is the Seven Emotions sect's cascade waterfall. Leng Ningyu brought Chu Kuangren to a waterfall that flowed down from a cliff. The sound of water crashing could be heard from 10 kilometers away. After Leng Ningyu introduced the cascade waterfall, she stood at the side without saying a word, allowing Chu Kuangren to enjoy the scenery. It was the same for most of their journey. Every time they arrived at a scenic spot, Leng Ningyu would say the name of the place and then retreat to the side without saying a word. It was obvious that she rarely interacted with others. Sometimes, she would look like she wanted to say something but could not find a topic to talk about. Most of the time, it was Chu Kuangren who spoke first before she could reply. Brother Leng, you seem to be acquainted with the Taoist of the Sword Tribe? Chu Kuangren asked out of the blue. I do. Leng Ningyu nodded. I heard that Jian Daoist is courting you. Courting? Leng Ningyu frowned, as if pondering the meaning behind those words. Finally, she said, Jian Daozi has indeed sought me out many times compared to others. As for pursuing me, fellow Taoist Chu, you're saying that he wants to become my Taoist companion. Yes, what do you think? I'm focused on Taoism, so I don't have such thoughts. I see. Chu Kuangren only asked casually and did not pursue the matter. Ningyu, so you're here. At that moment, a voice came from behind Chu Kuangren and his companion. A white-robed young man was seen walking towards them. When he saw Chu Kuangren, a strange look flashed across the young man's eyes before he looked at Chu Kuangren warily. I believe this must be the Chu Kuangren whose name has been spreading like wildfire recently, Brother Chu. Greetings, my name is Li Salong. Ever since he arrived at the Seven Emotions sect, he had heard about Chu Kuangren's visit. Coupled with Chu Kuangren's appearance and temperament, it was not difficult for him to guess who it was. "Greetings, Brother Li." Chu Kuangren looked at Li Salong with a playful gaze. This person was hostile towards him. "Why?" "Ningyu, long time no see. How have you been recently?" Li Salong looked at Leng Ningyu and asked gently. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren finally understood. So it was because of Leng Ningyu. Looks like it was another one of Leng Ningyu's pursuers. "Thank you for your concern, fellow Daoist Li. Ningyu has been doing fine recently. By the way, has Senior Li arrived?" "Yes, Master is now treating Senior Leng Yu." "Then I'll go take a look as well," Leng Ningyu said before she turned around and walked towards the direction of the Grand Hall. Curious, Chu Kuangren followed her. Beside him, Li Salong looked at him cautiously. "Brother Chu, why would you suddenly appear here? What's your motive for approaching Ningyu?" "Ha, does this have anything to do with you?" Chu Kuangren chuckled and did not bother to explain. Li Salong's eyes flashed coldly. "I don't care how powerful you are, Chu Kuangren. I'm warning you," before he could finish his sentence. All of a sudden, an earth-shattering pressure of the way of the sword enveloped him. The sword aura was so strong that it almost suffocated him. "Warning. No one has ever warned me before. Brother Li, please be careful with your words," Chu Kuangren said calmly. Opposite him, Li Salong's forehead was already dripping with cold sweat under the pressure. It was too terrifying. Although Li Salong was not a forbidden sky pride, he was still one of the best sky prides. However, he could not even withstand Chu Kuangren's aura. "Brother Li, Brother Chu, what's wrong with you two?" Leng Ningyu seemed to have sensed something strange behind her. She turned around and looked at Chu Kuangren and Li Salong with a questioning gaze. "It's nothing." Chu Kuangren smiled and retracted his sword Dao aura. His mastery of the aura was exquisite. It was only directed at Li Salong and did not leak out a single bit. Therefore, Leng Ningyu did not notice it at all. Leng Ningyu did not suspect anything and continued to walk forward. Chu Kuangren followed suit. Behind them, Li Salong stared at Chu Kuangren's back. Although it was their first time meeting, he looked at Chu Kuangren as if he was looking at his father's murderer. "If you look at me like that again, I don't mind gouging your eyes out." Chu Kuangren's cold voice drifted into Li Salong's ears. Upon hearing the warning, Li Salong quickly retracted his gaze. He knew that if the rumors were true, even 10 of him would not be a match for Chu Kuangren. The three of them arrived at the Grand Hall. As soon as Chu Kuangren entered the Grand Hall, he noticed that there was an unusual atmosphere in the Grand Hall. Inside the Grand Hall, there were 5 people. Other than Cold Moon Deity and Red Moon, there was also a handsome middle-aged man with white sideburns. The other 2 looked like elders. At that moment, Cold Moon Deity was glaring at the middle-aged man with anger in her beautiful eyes. "Li Daoren, don't you think it's too much to take advantage of me like this?" Cold Moon Fairy said with a cold tone. Li Daoren replied, "Cold Moon Deity, this is my only condition. You can choose not to accept it, but in this world, I'm afraid you won't be able to find another doctor or alchemist who can suppress the fire poison in your body other than me. Senior Li, you're also a great doctor. Don't you think it's shameless of you to make such a condition?" Red Moon looked at Li Daoren with the same unfriendly expression. "This is between me and your honorable master. A junior like you has no right to interrupt," Li Daoren said indifferently. "What's going on?" Leng Ningyu walked up and asked curiously. "Senior sister, Senior Li said he has a way to cure the fire poison in Honorable Master's body, but he asked for us to become partners," Red Moon said while gritting her teeth. When Leng Ningyu heard that, her heart did not waver, but she could not help but frown. "Senior Li, can you change your condition? I've liked your Honorable Master for many years, but she refused to accept me. I've had enough. Today, I must fulfill my wish." Li Daoren took a deep breath and looked at Cold Moon Deity with a fiery gaze. Ever since he was young, he had fallen in love with the Cold Moon Fairy. However, after so many years, he had not been able to obtain her. When he found out that she had been poisoned by the fire poison, his first reaction was not to feel pity for her, but excitement. Because in this way, he could use what he had learned to approach the other party openly and launch an attack to pursue her. Chapter 565. After so many years, even a rock should be warm by now. Cold Moon, don't tell me you don't feel anything for me at all. Masterly looked at Cold Moon deity and said with a pained expression. Brotherly, I'm very grateful that you've helped me alleviate the fire poison for so many years, but you can't force a relationship. Cold Moon deity took a deep breath and tried her best to calm herself down. She also knew how Daoist Li felt about her, so she had always deliberately kept her distance from him. Every time he finished treating her, she would pay him a batch of spirit sources or give him some treasures in return. She was determined not to owe him any favors. However, she did not expect Masterly to not let her go even after she made it so obvious. Now, he was even threatening to force her to become his Daoist partner. No, I must force it. Even if I can't have your heart, I must have your body. Masterly gritted his teeth and said, if you want to live, you must become my Daoist partner today. Forming a bond was a common method for Daoist partners. Once both parties formed a bond, they would live and die together without betrayal. If they did not form a bond, Masterly would not have made such a request. Otherwise, if he had just cured Ling Yu a second ago, and the other party killed him with a palm strike, wouldn't he have no place to cry? Masterly, don't cross the line. Even though Ling Ningyu was a cultivator of the Tao of Oblivion, she could not sit still when she saw her honorable master being threatened. By the way, not only Cold Moon, but Ningyu as well. My disciple Salong has liked you for a long time, so let's have a double celebration today. You and Salong shall become Daoist partners too. Li Salong was so happy that he almost jumped up. He had given Master Li countless thumbs up in his heart. A master like him was just too good. Not only did he find a Daoist partner, he did not forget to bring him along. Now, his long-cherished wish could be fulfilled. Ningyu, don't worry. If you and I become Daoist partners, I'll treat you well for the rest of your life. Li Salong looked at Leng Ningyu with a loving gaze. Beside them, Chu Quanren was dumbfounded. Where did this master and disciple come from? How shameless. Master Li, please leave. I can't cure this fire poison. Cold Moon Fairy suddenly said coldly. She could tolerate Taoist Li thinking about her, but he dared to think about Leng Ningyu, that was something she couldn't tolerate. The fact that she didn't throw Li Daoyu and the other man out of the 7 emotions sect on the spot was already the result of her restraint. Leng Yu, think carefully. If you don't get rid of the fire poison in your body, in less than 10 years, no matter how high your cultivation is, you will definitely be burnt to death. Taoist Li said. Hearing this, the expressions of Leng Ningyu, Chiyu, and the 2 7 emotions sect elders changed. However, the Cold Moon Fairy had expected this and said calmly, this has nothing to do with you. She knew her own situation best. She could guess how long she could live without Taoist Li telling her. But this could not be used as a bargaining chip by Taoist Li to threaten her. Between her life and her disciple, she would undoubtedly choose the latter. Taoist Li, I'm willing to become Tao companions with you, but you can't threaten my master. I wonder if you can heal my master. Leng Ningyu said softly. Her tone was emotionless, as if she wasn't the one who was about to marry someone else. Senior sister, you can't. Nonsense. Chi Yu and the Cold Moon Fairy tried to stop her at the same time. However, Leng Ningyu looked at the two calmly and said, Master's poison is more important. Chu Quanren watched from the side. He could not figure out if Leng Ningyu was cultivating the path of oblivion. If one were to say that she was sentimental, she always looked like she didn't care about anything. If one were to say that she was heartless, she was willing to give herself to Li Salong for her master. You don't have to worry about my master's poison. I'm the one who calls the shots here. The Cold Moon Fairy snorted, adamantly disagreeing. Master, shut up. Leng Ningyu still wanted to say something, but Cold Moon Fairy glared at her, causing her to swallow back her words. Actually, I can cure Cold Moon Fairy's fire poison too. Just when the situation was at a stalemate, Chu Kuangren suddenly spoke. His words attracted the attention of everyone present. Where did you come from? You want to cure the fire poison? Li Daoren snorted. That fire poison came from the ancient Crimson Sovereign Serpent. Of all the doctors in this world, no one can cure it except me. The Crimson Sovereign Serpent was a rare ancient wild beast. The Cold Moon Fairy had encountered one a long time ago. Because the Crimson Sovereign Serpent was wreaking havoc in the human world, she killed it. However, she was also poisoned by the fire poison. Other than you? Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh. You're too full of yourself. What did you say, kid? Li Doran's expression darkened. The spiritual power within his body rumbled as if he was about to attack. Keep your stupid thoughts to yourself. I can guarantee that if you dare to move, your head will see your body in the next second. Chu Kuangren placed his palm on the hilt of the Descendant Self sword at his waist. The sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme instantly sent a chill down Li Doran's spine. He looked at his opponent with fear in his eyes. Who are you? Honorable teacher, he's the rumored Chu Kuangren. Oh, that forbidden sky pride does look extraordinary, but do you know medicine? Li Daoren was a little surprised. More than you. Chu Kuangren did not bother to talk to Li Daoren. He said to the Cold Moon Fairy, Brother Leng, if you trust me, can I give it a try? The Cold Moon Fairy looked at Chu Kuangren and chuckled. If you're not confident, I'm sure you wouldn't have asked. So please, Brother Chu. Leng Yu, are you really going to put your life in this guy's hands? Li Daoren panicked. It's better than being threatened by someone. The Cold Moon Fairy said coldly. I need a place with abundant water qi. Brother Leng brought me to the Flow waterfall just now. That place is just right. Please follow me, Brother Leng Yu. Alright. The group headed towards the Flow waterfall. Li Daoren followed. I'd like to see what this kid is capable of. On the way to the Flow waterfall, Chu Kuangren asked Leng Yu curiously, why did you agree to become Li Salong's Taoist partner? To save my honorable teacher. Rumor has it that Brother Leng cultivates the Oblivion Tao. It seems like your cultivation is not thorough enough. I may be cultivating the Oblivion Tao, but my honorable teacher has saved my life, raised me, and taught me. I have to repay her. Leng Yu said calmly. Chu Kuangren seemed to have understood something. Leng Yu had cultivated the Oblivion Tao, but it was not a true abandonment of love. Instead, she had greatly reduced the influence of emotions on herself. However, she still had the knowledge of a normal person. For example, repaying a debt of gratitude. Abandonment of love doesn't mean that you're heartless. It seems like I've misunderstood. Who in this world can truly abandon their love? Chu Kuangren chuckled. After a while, the group arrived at the bottom of the Flow waterfall. The rumbling of water reverberated, and a large amount of water vapor filled the air, forming a faint mist around them. Brother Leng, I'll let the water vapor enter your body later. Please don't resist, and use your spiritual power to circulate with the water vapor. Alright. The Cold Moon Fairy nodded. Chapter 566. Let's begin then. Chu Kuangren clasped two of his fingers together, and the surrounding water vapor gathered towards him. In an instant, the water vapor condensed into tiny needles in the air. Everyone could not help but be surprised. Condensing water vapor into needles, an acupuncture technique? Taoist Li, who was an expert in medicine, murmured before he smirked. And here I thought it was some kind of brilliant medical technique. I've tried this acupuncture technique before, and I even used the most brilliant reverse rejuvenation 7 needles. But even that won't do anything to this fire poison. What a fool. Chu Kuangren could not help but scoff at his words. The reverse rejuvenation acupuncture technique uses the wood-based spiritual qi of heaven and earth to heal the patient, but the fire poison in Sister Leng's body belongs to the fire element. Are you trying to treat a fire element injury with a wood-based acupuncture technique? Do you think the fire is not strong enough? Sister Leng managed to survive until now thanks to your treatment because of her high cultivation level and strong foundation. It's already a blessing that she has 10 more years of life left. Daoist Li's expression became gloomy when he heard Chu Kuangren's words. Red Moon, on the other hand, was so angry that she gritted her teeth and cursed, "Be *****, so you've been harming my honorable teacher all this while." How can you call it harming a doctor? Daoist Li snorted. There's no cure for the fire poison in Leng Yu's body. If I didn't suppress it with my acupuncture technique, she would have been poisoned many times over. Idiot, your method doesn't solve the root of the problem. Besides, every time you suppress it, the fire poison will burn even more fiercely. Cold Moon Fairy could not help but recall how Daoist Li had treated her in the past. With Daoist Li's help, the number of times her fire poison flared up decreased, but at the same time, each time it flared up more violently than before. She initially thought that it was a characteristic of the fire poison, but she did not expect there to be another reason. Daoist Li was so angry that his face turned green. He then waved his sleeves and said, there's no point in talking anymore. We'll talk after you've cured Leng Yu. If Chu Kuangren could not cure Leng Yu, then everything he said would fall apart. I don't need you to tell me. Chu Kuangren grabbed a needle that was condensed from water vapor and pierced it into Cold Moon Fairy's acupuncture point. In an instant, water vapor entered his body. Chu Kuangren repeated what he had done. His hands moved quickly, and the water vapor in the air condensed into needles and pierced them into the Cold Moon deity's acupuncture points. Fellow Daoist Leng, circulate the spiritual power in your body along with the water qi I've injected into your body. First, Juk, Qihai, Red Sandalwood, Bai Hui, Sanjiao, Chu Kuangren instructed, and the Cold Moon deity did as she was told. She felt that there were two kinds of hot and cold feelings alternating in her body, as if she was in a world of fire and ice. In the eyes of the others, the Cold Moon Fairy's expression kept changing. Sometimes it was rosy, sometimes it was pale. Soon, a large ball of water vapor wrapped in a dark red flame slowly came out of the Cold Moon Fairy's body. Roar! This dark red flame seemed to have a mind of its own. It actually turned into a strange beast that looked like a poisonous snake, roaring continuously in the water vapor. You're just a bunch of flames without a source, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. Chu Kuangren curled his lips and raised his hand to gather the water qi in the air once again. Slash! The water vapor turned into a sharp blade and slashed at the flame. In an instant, this ball of fire poison mixed with the steam and dissipated into nothing. Success! Red Moon was overjoyed. Meanwhile, Li Doran's face turned pale. How can this be? How can this be? How did he succeed? He had not succeeded in curing the Cold Moon Fairy for so many years, yet Chu Kuangren succeeded. Right under his nose, Chu Kuangren used a method that he had never seen before. That's it. The Cold Moon Fairy looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. The disease that had plagued her for so many years was cured by Chu Kuangren in just a few moves. This was just too unbelievable. How do you feel? Chu Kuangren looked at the Cold Moon Fairy and smiled. Very good. I've never felt so relaxed before, the Cold Moon Fairy said happily. How did you do it? Li Daoren looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. Do you want to know? Kneel and beg me. If I'm in a good mood, I might tell you. Li Daoren snorted coldly and left. At that moment, Red Moon stopped him. What's wrong? You've harmed my honorable teacher for so many years, and you're thinking of leaving now. Aren't you a little too naive? Red Moon, let him go. At that moment, the Cold Moon Fairy said, however, from today onwards, the Seven Emotions sect will no longer welcome you and your disciple. Cold Moon, you really don't care about old friendships. From the moment you threatened me, you and I are destined to be strangers. Get lost. The Cold Moon Fairy did not hold back and immediately ordered her people to expel Li Daoren and Red Moon Fairy from the Seven Emotions sect. Fellow Taoist Chu, thank you for treating my master. I apologize to you for my previous offense, Chu Li said with a smile. Red Moon bowed in front of Chu Kuangren. I didn't take the previous incident to heart. It was just a small matter that was not worth Chu Kuangren's attention. Now that he had saved the Cold Moon Fairy, he instantly became a VIP of the Seven Emotions sect and was treated well. The next day, the Cold Moon Fairy summoned Chu Kuangren to the main hall, where a few elders of the Seven Emotions sect were present. These people gathered in one place and sized Chu Kuangren up from head to toe. Some of the more daring female elders even whistled at him. Chu Kuangren calmly cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, fellow Taoists. Oh, Brother Chu, the reason I called you here today is to discuss the exchange of emperor techniques." The Cold Moon Fairy took out 5 scrolls. These are the 5 scrolls of the Seven Emotions sect. They are the Heart-Rending Claw, Heaven's Fury Blade, Delightful Seal, Wraith Blade, and Rage Spear. These 5 scrolls correspond to the 5 emotions of grief, anger, joy, fear, and hatred. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up and he immediately took out the 3 scrolls he had obtained. These are the Raging God's Fist, Heart-Piercing Finger, and Heaven's Sorrow Palm. Exchanging 5 scrolls for 3 seemed like a loss for the Seven Emotions sect. However, Chu Kuangren knew that the Cold Moon Fairy was repaying him for saving her life yesterday. Otherwise, the Cold Moon Fairy would not have handed over the Emperor techniques so easily. Brother Chu, you may study these 5 scrolls in the Seven Emotions sect, but please don't take them away. Of course. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. After that, the Cold Moon Fairy waved her hand and signaled the others to leave with the remaining 3 scrolls. She looked at Chu Kuangren with a strange gaze. Chu Kuangren was a little scared by her stare. Could it be that the Cold Moon Fairy wanted to repay him with her body because he had saved her life? Upon closer inspection, the Cold Moon Fairy had a peerless beauty and was extraordinarily charming. Otherwise, Li Daoist would not have been obsessed with her for so many years. TSK, if she really wants to repay him with her body, should I agree? If he did not agree, the Cold Moon Fairy would not force herself on him. After all, he was so handsome, it was not impossible for her to force herself on him. Should I resist? Chu Kuangren's thoughts started to wander. What do you think about condensed jade? At that moment, the Cold Moon Fairy suddenly said. What? Why did she suddenly mention condensed jade? Could it be that she wanted to, buy one get one free? Chapter 567. Sister Ningyu is the Seven Emotions sect's maiden sage. Whether it's in terms of cultivation or talent, you're the best of the best. Chu Kuangren calmed the thoughts that were running wild like a wild horse and said calmly. You know that's not what I'm asking you. Cold Moon Deity said faintly. Well, I don't quite understand what you're saying. Chu Kuangren pretended to be confused. What a joke. He was already taken. This Cold Moon Deity was trying to seduce him. No way. Then I'll be straightforward. I hope that you can make Ningyu fall in love with you. Cough cough, Sister Lang, forgive me for not being able to do that. Feelings cannot be forced. I have no such intentions towards Sister Ningyu. It doesn't matter if you do or not. The main thing is for Ningyu to have feelings for her. Chu Kuangren was even more confused. Sister Lang, are you trying to persuade me to seduce Sister Ningyu and make me a scumbag? Something like that. Cold Moon Deity rubbed her chin and said. Chu Kuangren was dumbfounded. What kind of hatred did this pair of master and disciple have for each other? No, this is not right. This pair of master and disciple seemed to be willing to do anything for each other yesterday. Why did they change in the blink of an eye? It was said that women were fickle, but this change was too fast. Don't misunderstand. I want you to do this because I want to help Ningyu cultivate and make her fall in love with you. Then, she'll forget about you and truly master the path of forgetfulness. Cold Moon Deity said. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren finally understood. So, he was being used as a tool by her. What if she can't forget me after she falls in love with me? You don't have to worry about that. I have my ways. Chu Kuangren pondered for a while and then shook his head. I'm sorry, I really can't do this. To deceive a woman's feelings and make her fall in love with him while he himself did not love her, Chu Kuangren knew that he could not do such a thing. TSK, it seems that I was right about you. The more you refuse, the more it shows that you have a noble character and that Ning Yu was right about you. Cold Moon Deity looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration. What if I agree? That's even better. This way, I can use you as a tool without any psychological burden. Chu Kuangren was speechless. He shook his head and said, I heard that the sword race's Daoist is very fond of Daoist Ning Yu. Why don't you let him help? Him? If he was half as good as you, Ning Yu's Tao of forgetting emotion would have long achieved great success. Ling Yu pursed her lips. Back in the Sword Clan, Jian Daozi had no idea why, but he suddenly sneezed. Could it be that someone with a cultivation base as high as his would actually catch a cold? Inside the Seven Emotions sect, Cold Moon Fairy continued, however, this kind of thing requires both parties to be willing. If you don't want to, then I won't force you. I have already given you these 5 scrolls. I will arrange a place for you to comprehend. Go and comprehend. And, thank you, fellow Taoist Leng. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and turned to leave. Cold Moon Fairy, who was looking at his back, smiled faintly and said, Brother Chu, you don't know how charming you are. Even I'm a little moved. It doesn't matter if you're willing or not. As long as you're charming and Ning Yu is moved by you, then this matter will be mostly settled. Then, Cold Moon Fairy called Leng Ningyu over. Honorable teacher. Ningyu, I called you here today because I have something to tell you. I want you to fall in love with someone. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren's figure appeared in Leng Ningyu's mind for some reason. Who are you talking about, honorable teacher? Chu Kuangren. Leng Ningyu's heart skipped a beat, and a rare hint of panic appeared on her cold face. Cold Moon Fairy saw that and secretly rejoiced. There was a chance. In a secret cultivation room of the Seven Emotions sect, Chu Kuangren lined up the 5 scrolls one by one and began to comprehend the emperor techniques recorded on them. Chu Kuangren was already very familiar with comprehending emperor techniques. With his indescribable level of comprehension, it took him less than a day to completely comprehend all 5 emperor techniques. If word of this got out, many Seven Emotions sect disciples would be shocked. Even the most demonic sky prides in the Seven Emotions sect would need at least a year and a half to master the emperor techniques. Yet Chu Kuangren had comprehended all 5 emperor techniques in less than a day. It was not a simple comprehension, but a thorough comprehension. Even if Cold Moon Fairy were to come here personally, she might not dare to say that her understanding of these emperor techniques was better than Chu Kuangren's. Now that I've mastered the emperor techniques, I should take this opportunity to refine the Wood Vein's primordial essence and the White Spirit divine fruit. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He took out the 2 treasures with anticipation in his eyes. This portion of the Wood Vein's primordial essence is enough to raise my cultivation to the Boundary Emperor realm. This White Spirit divine fruit, on the other hand, can allow me to enter a state of epiphany and increase my understanding of the Tao. Speaking of which, Chu Kuangren's current cultivation level was considered a sage ruler. Strictly speaking, he was considered a supreme sage ruler since he had a supreme sage foundation level. Not only him, but most of the forbidden sky prides were also in the sage ruler realm. The reason why they had the combat strength to rival a boundary emperor was not only because of their own foundation, but also because they had found their own Tao just like the boundary emperors. However, their cultivation level was still in the sage realm. As for the sovereigns above the boundary emperors, they were also boundary emperors. It was just that they had cultivated their Tao to a level that ordinary boundary emperors could not reach. Chu Kuangren first started to refine the wood vein's primordial essence. Aside from being able to increase one's cultivation level, the primordial essence was also a treasure that could prolong one's life and heal injuries. Its healing effects could even tempt sovereigns. Chu Kuangren first left a portion for Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue, then used the rest for himself to refine. Healing effects. He had the immortal body, so why would he need healing effects? Besides, he had the spring breeze healing technique, so its healing effects were not much weaker than the earth vein's primordial essence. Coupled with his top-notch medical skills, he could even heal injuries that the wood vein's primordial essence could not heal. In that case, what was the point of keeping them for? They were just taking up space. Hence, he simply used them all to refine. He opened his mouth wide and swallowed the wood vein's primordial essence into his stomach like he was drinking water. The universal cauldron physique was instantly activated. The terrifying universal cauldron physique quickly converted the foreign energy into spiritual power. The wood vein's primordial essence contains such a huge amount of energy that even a top-notch boundary emperor would need at least a year to refine it using the best refining techniques. However, Chu Kuangren did not need that. His universal cauldron physique could quickly refine all kinds of foreign energies in this world. The earth vein's primordial essence was also one of the foreign energies. Even a boundary emperor would need a year to refine it, but Chu Kuangren only took a day to refine it all. And in this short span of a day, his cultivation had also risen continuously, from a first step Holy King to a second step Holy King, then a third step Holy King. In the end, he broke through the Sage Ruler threshold and reached the Boundary Emperor realm. Even after he reached the Boundary Emperor realm, his cultivation level rose by a large margin before it gradually stopped. The Boundary Emperor realm was not divided into 1 or 2 sage realms. Instead, it was divided into 4 levels based on the quality of one's spiritual power. Among the Boundary Emperors, Tao was more important. If a boundary emperor's Tao was stronger and deeper, then even if one's spiritual power was weaker, there was still a chance for the boundary emperor to win. Before the emperor realm, the Tao is divided into 3 steps: seeking Tao, practicing Tao, and emperor ascension. The practicing Tao is further divided into 5 stages: beginner success, full success, peak, full success, and ultimate realm. The emperor's Tao is at least full success or even ultimate realm. Meanwhile, the invincible Tao that I'm walking on is now at its peak. Now that I'm a boundary emperor, coupled with my supreme sage foundation, even a top-notch boundary emperor would not be able to defeat me in terms of spiritual power quality. With the help of my emperor weapon and other techniques, I can even defeat an emperor who has full success Tao. Chu Kuangren smirked. He felt that he was very powerful now, but his transformation was not over yet. He still had a white spirit divine fruit. Chapter 568. The white spirit divine fruit was one of the 10 great spiritual fruits. Not many people had consumed this spiritual fruit in history, and the most famous one was an ordinary cultivator who became a peerless sky pride. He even became an emperor within 100 years. Therefore, the white spirit divine fruit was widely known. Chu Kuangren looked at the divine fruit in his hand with curiosity in his eyes. He then opened his mouth and took a bite. With a crack, the juice splattered and exploded in his mouth. A refreshing sweetness flowed down his throat and into his body. The taste was not bad. It was like eating a pear. Chu Kuangren took another bite and quickly swallowed the white spirit divine fruit that was rumored to be miraculous in the outside world. He did not even let go of the seed. Not long after, a strange energy exploded in his abdomen and quickly spread throughout his body. Following that, Chu Kuangren's mind gradually became ethereal as he fell into a mysterious state of epiphany. His comprehension of the Tao was also constantly improving. Just as Chu Kuangren was refining the white spirit divine fruit and entering the epiphany state, the outside world was already in chaos. The barren forbidden area was a land of great opportunities of fortune in the Emperor's path. Rumor had it that this place had existed since the formation of the Emperor's path. It was the oldest place on the Emperor's path. Moreover, numerous extremely shocking fortuitous encounters were hidden here as well. Emperor-grade treasures, emperor weapons, and even the rare emperor's body could be found there. Countless cultivators yearned for this place. However, this place was filled with countless restrictions that would only be opened when the emperor's throne was about to appear. Normally, this place was filled with danger, and anyone who barged in recklessly would most likely die. Now that the emperor's mountain had moved, many of the restrictions in the barren forbidden area had been unlocked, and all kinds of opportunities of fortune appeared one after another. All the Sky Prides who wanted to fight for the emperor's throne, especially the forbidden Sky Prides, naturally would not miss this opportunity. Inside the barren forbidden area, in a certain mountain range, an intense battle erupted, affecting the surrounding terrain and causing it to shatter. In the depths of the mountain range, rays of colorful lights were flashing along with a shocking Taoist rhyme. A group of cultivators was attacking a 5-colored giant spider. This giant spider was extremely powerful. Judging from its aura, it had already reached the level of a peak quasi-emperor. Its mastery of the 5 elements was also extremely proficient. However, the cultivators surrounding it were not weaklings either. Even the weakest of them was a saint ruler, and there were more than a dozen quasi-emperors. One of the youths had a 5-colored radiance above his head. His aura was so strong that it wasn't much weaker than the giant spiders. In the end, under the siege of this group of people, the giant spider could only bear with hatred and die. As for that young man, he was the Wang clan's forbidden genius, Wang Quan. Looking at a cave in the depths of the mountain range, his silhouette flickered as he charged in. Inside the cave, there was a dense qi circulating. In front of Wang Quan was a 5-colored pool. This aura, I really did not find the wrong place. This is the rumored essence of the 5 elements, and it is the essence of the 5 elements of high quality. Once I refine it, my divine will of 5 elements will be able to improve further. When that time comes, we might be able to fight against Chu Kuangren. Wang Quan looked at the 5 elemental essences with excitement in his eyes. Then, he said to the quasi-emperors outside the cave, I'm going into seclusion to refine this 5 elemental essence. You guys wait outside. Yes. The seals here are really powerful. Bai Hongyu raised her hand and formed the heaven-worshipping seal to shatter the sword qi unleashed by one of the broken seals. After expending a large amount of spiritual power, Bai Hongyu finally broke the seal in front of her. What appeared before her was a fiery red longsword. The sword had a gorgeous design with lifelike dragon and phoenix patterns carved on it, and it emanated an extremely dense emperor's aura. Emperor weapon. This is an emperor weapon. Rumor has it that many emperors have fallen in the barren forbidden area. Looks like it's true. This emperor weapon must have been left behind by one of the fallen emperors. Bai Hongyu looked at the emperor weapon excitedly and rushed forward. Not far away from the emperor weapon, she found a few broken corpses that similarly emanated an emperor's aura. An emperor's broken body. What kind of terrifying power could destroy an emperor to such an extent that only a few bones are left? Bai Hongyu was extremely shocked. The barren forbidden area before the seal was broken was just too terrifying. However, she then murmured excitedly, if I can refine the emperor's broken body, I'll definitely be able to break through to the boundary emperor realm. And this emperor weapon. She looked at the emperor weapon and reached out to grab it. However, the emperor weapon was unyielding. It unleashed a powerful saber ray and forced her to retreat. I don't believe I can't make you surrender. Bai Hongyu's expression darkened. She channeled her spiritual power and Taoist rhyme and rushed forward again. After a round of resistance, the emperor weapon finally acknowledged Bai Hongyu as its master. Crimson Dragon Phoenix Saber. After a simple round of refining, Bai Hongyu also learned the name of the saber. She smirked and said proudly, don't worry. As long as you stay by my side, I'll definitely make your name known across the world. The emperor weapon trembled slightly and let out a saber hum, causing the surrounding void to tremble. Once I've completely refined the emperor weapon and this emperor's broken body, Chu Kuangren, I'll definitely trample you under my feet. Chu Kuangren's figure appeared in Bai Hongyu's mind, and a cold glint flashed across her eyes. This is the inheritance of the heavenly golden imperial physique. Inside a spatial secret realm in the barren forbidden area. Xiao Jingchen, who had mistakenly entered this realm, was shocked to see a floating light orb in front of him. The heavenly golden imperial physique was the second strongest physique in history, yet he had been defeated time and time again. Not to mention Chu Kuangren, any forbidden sky pride could beat him up easily. This made Xiao Jingchen extremely frustrated. Hence, he had been trying his best to find an opportunity of fortune to reverse his fate in this barren forbidden area. He did not have high hopes at first, but he did not expect to find such a great opportunity of fortune. Moreover, it was the most suitable opportunity of fortune. The fact that you're able to enter this secret realm means that you're also the heavenly golden imperial physique. I'm Great Emperor Ing Xian, also a possessor of the heavenly golden imperial physique. Although I've become a great emperor, my lifespan is still limited. I came here to explore the barren forbidden area in an attempt to find a way to live a second life, but unfortunately, I've fallen. Hence, I've left my inheritance here. Successor, once you've refined this inheritance, you shall be the successor of me, Ing Xian. Do not tarnish the reputation of the heavenly golden imperial physique. An old voice came from the light orb. Following that, the light orb quickly merged into Xiao Jingchen's body. Then, a large amount of insights regarding the heavenly golden imperial physique erupted, causing Xiao Jingchen's strength to skyrocket. My Tao is the Tao of the heavenly golden imperial physique. I shall crush everything. Once I've completely refined this inheritance and come out of closed-door meditation, it'll be time for me to dominate the world. Jian Daozi, Wang Quan, Tu Heng, Bai Hengyu, and even Chu Kuangren. Just you wait, the heavenly golden imperial physique is not to be underestimated. Xiao Jingchen's eyes were filled with confidence. The Sky Prides entered the barren forbidden area one after another, each seeking their own opportunity of fortune. Everyone was making their final preparations to ascend to the Emperor realm. Meanwhile, in the Seven Emotions sect, Chu Kuangren, who was in closed-door meditation, also had a new realization. Chapter 569. Inside the Seven Emotions sect, Chu Kuangren had consumed the white spirit fruit and was in a state of epiphany. His understanding of the Tao was constantly improving, and the various mysterious Tao techniques that he had learned throughout his life replayed in his mind, allowing him to master them more easily. However, at the same time, he thought of a problem. He had found his own Tao, but he did not have a Tao technique that truly matched his Tao. Although his Tao was a little special and could be used in any Tao technique, however, those Tao techniques were all created by others, and he had yet to create a Tao technique that belonged to him based on his Tao. At that thought, Chu Kuangren began to create his own Tao technique. It was not the first time he had done something like this. A long time ago, he had already created many sage techniques and even emperor techniques. This time, he wanted to create his own Tao technique based on his own Tao. Under the state of epiphany from the white spirit fruit, the process was surprisingly smooth, and Chu Kuangren soon had an inspiration. Since I walk the Tao of invincibility, I shall naturally create my own Tao of invincibility. I have many kinds of emperor arts and dharma access. Why don't I get rid of the weeds and keep the essentials? Learn from each other and combine them into one. That will be the prototype of my Tao of invincibility. Chu Kuangren did what he wanted to do. Countless Tao techniques appeared in his mind, and he began to combine them. He knew too many Tao techniques. Even if the other cultivators only had 1/10 of his knowledge, they would still be able to dominate the world, let alone combine them into a new Tao technique. Even an emperor would not be able to do it. However, Chu Kuangren's level of enlightenment was amazing, and with the help of the white spirit fruit, he had made this almost impossible possible. Sword Tao, Buddhist Tao, Guqin Tao, Fist Tao, Saber Tao. They were just the manifestations of his Tao of invincibility. Sword Tao, Buddhist Tao, Guqin Tao, Fist Tao, Saber Tao, and many other Tao techniques gradually combined to form an unimaginably powerful Tao of invincibility. Time passed, and it had been a month since Chu Kuangren went into closed-door meditation. And on this day, An extremely terrifying fluctuation suddenly came from Chu Kuangren's closed-door meditation spot, and an indescribable Taoist rhyme spread. The 7 emotions sect's cultivators all sensed it and looked towards Chu Kuangren. What's going on with this fluctuation? What a mysterious Taoist aura. Why does it feel like the Taoist aura emanating from some sort of cultivation technique? Wait, that's fellow Taoist Chu's place of seclusion. Could it be fellow Taoist Chu? But wasn't he trying to comprehend those scrolls? How could there be such a Taoist aura? The few scrolls that were given to Chu Kuangren recorded the few emperor techniques that the 7 emotions sect had obtained. Since the elders and disciples of the 7 emotions sect had cultivated those emperor techniques before, they were very familiar with the Taoist rhymes that emanated from them. It was definitely not the Taoist rhymes that Chu Kuangren was currently emitting. Just when everyone was puzzled, the Taoist rhyme at Chu Kuangren's location became denser and denser, and a dazzling beam of light shot up into the sky. The pillar of light pierced through the clouds, and an extremely mysterious Taoist rhyme continued to spread out with the pillar of light as the center, covering a radius of millions of miles. Then, the sound of Taoist rhyme reverberated in the sky, and golden lotuses condensed from spirit chi bloomed. There was also a supreme phenomenon of dragons and phoenixes, as well as a myriad of spirits worshipping each other. What's the situation? The cold moon deity and the other cultivators were dumbfounded. The phenomenon before them was just too magnificent. It was their first time witnessing such a phenomenon in so many years. Even if he's fully comprehended all the emperor techniques, there shouldn't be such a phenomenon happening. Could it be that he's created some kind of cultivation technique? Natural phenomena would only occur when new creatures were born. For example, new emperors, new cultivation techniques, and the like. Chu Kuangren's comprehension of the emperor techniques would not cause such a phenomenon. It would only happen when he created some kind of new cultivation technique. Then the question was, what kind of technique did Chu Kuangren create that could produce such a terrifying phenomenon? Even an emperor technique might not have such a phenomenon. Just when everyone was still in shock, the Taoist rhyme that emanated from the beam of light became denser and denser. Then, a white-robed figure gradually emerged from the beam of light. That figure's back was facing the crowd, and when he lifted his hand, a terrifying phenomenon of stars falling and the sun and moon inverting was formed. That figure could pluck the stars, the sun, and the moon with just one hand, as if he was standing at the peak of eternity. The cold moon deity and the others gulped as they looked at that figure. They felt an urge to worship him. Oh my God, what kind of cultivation technique is this? Emperor technique? Or is it a legendary immortal technique? Everyone was guessing, but they could not come to a conclusion. To everyone's knowledge, emperor techniques were the highest level of cultivation techniques. The next level would be the legendary immortal technique. However, the immortal technique was an illusory concept that had never been proven. Nobody knew if it existed or not. Not to mention immortal techniques. Therefore, they did not know how to explain the cultivation technique that Chu Kuangren had created. Only a few extremely ancient existences could make a guess after sensing Chu Kuangren's cultivation technique's aura. Profound? This aura is a profound technique. Did someone create a brand new profound technique? No, it's not a profound technique. But this cultivation technique does have the potential to become a profound technique, or even more, this cultivation technique's aura comes from the Emperor's Road, Hell, Firmament Star, and the 9 heavens. The ripples of the cultivation technique that Chu Kuangren had created had spread to the 3 realms. Countless ancient existences looked at the Emperor's Road curiously. Since ancient times, there were very few cultivators who could create a profound technique. Each of them was the best among the great emperors, and they were all unparalleled figures who shocked the world. In the barren forbidden area of the Emperor's Road, on a certain mountain peak, a black-haired young man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes looked in Chu Kuangren's direction, his eyes filled with uncertainty. This aura, is it a profound technique? No, how is this possible? How can someone create a profound technique in the Emperor's Road? How can a person below the emperor realm control the power of a profound technique? What the hell is going on? Around the black-haired young man were the corpses of beasts. Not far away, countless beasts looked at him with fear in their eyes. Obviously, these beasts were killed by this young man. Among them, there was no lack of boundary emperor beasts. Let's put this matter aside for now. Let's refine this supreme elixir first. This barren forbidden area is still the same as before. There are countless opportunities of fortune here, and I can even find a master-level emperor elixir. Once I refine this, I'll have a 90% chance of breaking through to the emperor realm in my second life. The black-haired young man murmured. If anyone else were to see him here, they would definitely be shocked. Because this person was the Qin family's Qin Tianqian, who was known as the reincarnation of a great emperor. He was also the most dazzling forbidden sky pride in the emperor's road. Scram! Qin Tianqian glanced at the beasts around him. In an instant, a large number of beasts fled the scene, not daring to stay any longer. The person in front of them was too terrifying. So many beasts were killed by him, and yet he was not injured at all. Soon, only Qin Tianqian was left at the scene. He glanced in Chu Kuangren's direction. Although he was very concerned about the profound technique's aura, he decided to refine the supreme elixir in his hand first. Chapter 570. 7 Emotions Sect. The transformations caused by Chu Kuangren's creation of the cultivation technique had gradually dissipated. In his closed-door meditation, Chu Kuangren slowly opened his eyes and opened his palms. There was an extremely terrifying Taoist rhyme circulating in his palms. That was the Taoist rhyme of the cultivation technique that he had created. He could sense that this cultivation technique was only in its infancy, and there was still a lot of room for growth. Even though it was only in its infancy, it had already surpassed most emperor techniques. Moreover, since he was the one who created it, it was very compatible with his Tao of invincibility. With this cultivation technique, his combat strength would undoubtedly increase tremendously. This technique is based on my Tao of invincibility, so I shall call it, the technique of invincibility. Chu Kuangren casually gave this cultivation technique a name. After that, he tidied up his things and prepared to exit his closed-door meditation. When Cold Moon Deity and the others saw that Chu Kuangren had exited his closed-door meditation, they all went up to him. Brother Chu, congratulations on coming out of your closed-door meditation. That transformations just now were really scary. I wonder what kind of technique did you create? Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. I learned a little. He did not say too much. The technique of invincibility was one of his trump cards, so it was not appropriate for him to reveal it to everyone. Cold Moon Deity also knew that such a technique was extremely rare, and it even touched upon the secrets of the emperors. Naturally, she would not ask too much. Brother Chu, now that you've come out of your closed-door meditation, it should be time for you to go to the barren forbidden area. Cold Moon Deity changed the topic. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he heard that. So the barren forbidden area is already open? He had heard of the barren forbidden area before. He knew that it was a land of great opportunities of fortune in the Emperor's path, and it was even more powerful than the Thousand Wonders Grotto. Yes, it was just a few days ago. Ningyu, Red Moon have already gone there, Cold Moon Deity said. I see. The barren forbidden area is quite interesting. Chu Kuangren would not easily miss out on a land of great opportunities of fortune like the barren forbidden area. He soon bid farewell to Cold Moon Deity and the others. In the barren forbidden area. Within a mountain range, Jian Daozi was leading a group of members of the Sword Folk to explore the desolate forbidden area. During the past few days, they had come across some good fortune in the desolate forbidden zone, and all of them had made some progress. That was especially true of Jian Daozi, who had been a forbidden chosen to begin with. With the help of a series of good fortune, his strength had advanced by leaps and bounds, and he was now only a step away from becoming a quasi-emperor. Not enough, this is far from enough. If that's all you've got, you're no match for Chu Kuangren at all. Jian Daozi looked at the sword in his hand. It was the gold Darch sword, one of the imperial weapons of the sword race. When he came to the desolate forbidden area, the sword clan leader gave him the sword. He had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, so he quickly gained the sword's approval and refined it. In his hands, the might of the sword was even greater than in the hands of the elder of the sword race. However, even with the help of the emperor weapon and the increase in his cultivation base, he still felt that it was not enough to fight against Chu Kuangren. Emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren had several of them as well, but that was not an advantage at all. Cultivation. Not to mention, Chu Kuangren was a supreme sage, which meant that he was more powerful than Jian Daozi. Coupled with the earth vein essence, Jian Daozi would definitely reach the boundary emperor level after refining the sword. The current Jian Daozi had no chance of winning against Chu Kuangren at all. Jian Daozi understood this very well. If I want to fight Chu Kuangren, I'll need a master-level emperor weapon or a top-tier boundary emperor-level cultivation base. Then, with the help of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, I might be able to put up a fight. Not to mention my swordsmanship. If I can perfect my swordsmanship, I might even be able to fight an emperor realm cultivator. Looks like it's time to look for that item. Jian Daozi murmured as he took out a green glazed lamp. It was the green glazed godly lamp. At that moment, a flame was burning inside the godly lamp, and rays of mystical brilliance could be seen within the flame. Not far away, the succubus sentinel's eyes lit up when he saw it. Master was right. Jian Daozi has the wick of the godly lamp on him. Now that the wick has returned, it's time for Jian Daozi to make a move. The succubus sentinel thought to himself. Sure enough, Jian Daozi channeled his spiritual power into the green-glazed godly lamp, and it automatically pointed to a direction. Is it over there? Jian Daozi looked in the direction that the godly lamp was pointing and led the group in that direction. The succubus sentinel did not follow right away. Instead, she planned to stay at the back of the group and secretly send a message to Chu Kuangren. However, she suddenly realized that it was not just her. Jian Changfeng's movements were also a little sneaky. Suspicious, the succubus sentinel continued to observe in secret. She realized that Jian Changfeng was actually sending a message to someone. Could it be? The succubus sentinel's eyes lit up as she guessed what was going on. Jian Changfeng had also been subdued by her master. The succubus sentinel could not help but secretly admire Chu Kuangren's methods. Since Jian Changfeng had sent her a message, she did not need to do anything unnecessary. However, just as she was about to leave, she suddenly sensed something strange. In the void, someone was spying on Jian Changfeng just like her. She recognized that person. It was one of Jian Daozi's 3 great hidden guards, the covert sword sentinel. The covert sword sentinel noticed her as well. He smirked and gestured for her to keep quiet before disappearing without a trace. The succubus sentinel was shocked. What was the meaning of this? Was it a coincidence that the covert sword sentinel had discovered that Jian Changfeng was sending a message to their master, or had Jian Daozi discovered something and sent the covert sword sentinel to investigate? What about her? Had she been exposed as well? The succubus sentinel suppressed the shock in her heart and glanced at Jian Changfeng, who was still unaware of her presence. In a flash, her figure disappeared on the spot as well. When she found Jian Daozi, she realized that the covert sword sentinel was there too. Master Daozi was right. Jian Changfeng is indeed sending a message to Chu Kuangren. The covert sword sentinel was reporting to Jian Daozi about Jian Changfeng. Greetings, Master Daozi. The succubus sentinel walked up to her, her expression unchanged. Beside her, the covert sword sentinel smiled at her and said, "The succubus sentinel is indeed the succubus sentinel. I only noticed Jian Changfeng because of Master Daozi's instructions. I didn't expect that the succubus sentinel would also notice Jian Changfeng's unusual behavior. Your vigilance is not something I can match." "Oh, did you notice something, Mayor?" Jian Daozi was a little surprised. "Yes, I noticed that Jian Changfeng's behavior was a little unusual, so I paid more attention to it. I was just about to report to you, Master Daozi, but I didn't expect you to be so observant and have already noticed it." It seems like I did something unnecessary, the succubus sentinel said with a smile. I was just suspecting it. I didn't expect Jian Changfeng to really betray us. That Chu Kuangren sure is cunning. I wonder what kind of benefits he promised Jian Changfeng. How did you suspect him, Master Daozi? Last time at the Thousand Wonders Paradise, Chu Kuangren was able to appear without alerting any of the seals and snatch away the white spirit divine fruit. After that, the more I thought about it, the more I felt that something was wrong. The Thousand Wonders Paradise is so huge, so how could Chu Kuangren appear there so coincidentally? That's when I started to suspect Jian Changfeng. I see. Since I've found out, I shall go and kill him now. The succubus sentinel said coldly. There's no hurry. I can use him to deal with Chu Kuangren and get him to send the wrong message to him. Chu Kuangren, just you wait for your own cleverness to overshadow you. Jian Daozi sneered, looking like he had everything planned out. Beside him, the succubus sentinel revealed a look of admiration. Master Daozi, you're really thoughtful. However, she was sneering in her heart. Jian Daozi, you never would have guessed that I was also sent by our master. Chapter 571. Somewhere in the barren forbidden area. Chu Kuangren slowly walked on the mountain path. With his treasure locating skill activated, he could immediately sense any treasures around him and went to collect them. Whether it was the barren forbidden area or the 10,000 Wonders Grotto Heaven, they were all excellent places for Chu Kuangren to search for treasures. Suddenly, his communication artifact vibrated. He picked up the compass and checked the message. Then, his lips curled into a playful smile. Since Jian Daozi noticed Jian Changfeng's abnormality, it seems he's not that stupid after all. Chu Kuangren was not too surprised by that. Not to mention Jian Changfeng, even if the magic sword guards were discovered, it would not be a loss to him. Both of them were members of the swordsmen. Whether they betrayed him or died, the swordsman would only feel sorry for them. As for Chu Kuangren, he was only treating it as a game. Jian Daozi, help me search for the Sword Emperor's opportunity of fortune. Chu Kuangren chuckled. At another place. Jian Daozi had led a group of swordsmen to a mountain range. At the end of this mountain range is where the Azure Sword Emperor is. Rumor has it that the Azure Sword Emperor died in closed-door meditation, unable to live a second life. Once I refine the 4 divine water and fire sword primordial, my 4 divine sword Dao will be able to reach the full completion level. Jian Daozi said excitedly. The 4 divine sword Dao was the Dao that he walked on. It was inherited from an ancient inheritance that he obtained many years ago. The 4 divine sword primordial was a treasure that Jian Daozi found in the ancient books of his tribe. It contained the power of the 4 sword Daos of earth, wind, water, and fire. However, during an ancient war, it was divided into 4 parts. Among them, the wind sword primordial was in Jian Daozi's inheritance. After searching for many years, he finally found the earth sword primordial and went into closed-door meditation to refine that sword primordial. The last water and fire sword primordial were said to be in the hands of the Azure Sword Emperor. That was also the reason why he wanted the green glass magic lamp. It was the only way to find the Azure Sword Emperor. Beside him, Jian Changfeng's eyes flashed when he heard Jian Daozi's words. Jian Changfeng followed behind the group and sent a message to Chu Kuangren, telling him the location of the Azure Sword Emperor. Not long after, Jian Changfeng discovered that something was amiss. They had already passed the mountain range, but they did not stop. Instead, they continued to move forward into the distance. The Azure Mystic Sword Emperor was nowhere in the mountain range Jian Daozi had mentioned. He wanted to continue reporting to Chu Kuangren, but he was being watched by the concealed sword guards, so he had no chance to do so. Jian Changfeng felt extremely anxious, but there was nothing he could do. He knew that Jian Daozi had already sensed that something was off about him. He had fallen into Jian Daozi's trap. Jian Daozi had used him to send Chu Kuangren false information. Along the way, Jian Daozi sent people to keep an eye on Jian Changfeng. Then, they arrived at a strange forest shrouded in black mist. The black mist in the forest was a kind of restriction. It was not a natural restriction of the desolate forbidden land, but a man-made restriction. Found it, this is the true location of the Azure Profound Sword Emperor. Lord Daoist, this black fog seems a little strange. The phantom sword guard looked at the black mist and frowned. Let the traitor go in and test the waters first. Jian Daozi said indifferently. The traitor he was referring to was naturally Jian Changfeng. Soon, Jian Changfeng was escorted by the concealed sword guards. I'm curious, what did Chu Kuangren offer you to betray the swordsman for him? Jian Daozi said coldly. As soon as he said that, the news of Jian Changfeng being a traitor spread throughout the crowd, causing an uproar among the swordsmen. However, Jian Changfeng merely smiled. Jian Daozi, you can't defeat our master. Master? Jian Daozi's expression turned grim. You've acknowledged him as your master. Being bought by Chu Kuangren and acknowledging Chu Kuangren as their master were two completely different concepts. The latter would be a bigger blow to the swordsman. The swordsman's top sky pride had acknowledged someone else as his master, and that person was the swordsman's enemy. If word of this got out, the reputation of the swordsman would be greatly affected. Throw him in. Jian Daozi yelled. The concealed sword guard immediately slapped Jian Changfeng's body, sending him into the black mist. The sudden appearance of an outsider caused the black mist to react. The black mist rumbled and formed surges of black sword qi that flew towards Jian Changfeng. The surges of sword qi were extremely sharp. Even though Jian Changfeng's strength was outstanding, he was quickly defeated by the encirclement of the sword qi. With a loud crack, Jian Changfeng's arm was torn apart by one of the sword qi. Jian Changfeng's momentary distraction caused him to be completely torn apart by the sword qi, and he died on the spot. Jian Daozi's expression did not change at all. All he had done was kill a traitor. However, this black mist was a little tricky to deal with. These sword qi are too powerful. It won't be easy to break in. Jian Daozi frowned. Then, he looked at the evergreen fairy lamp in his hand. Suddenly, he thought of something and channeled his spiritual power. Within the evergreen fairy lamp, a flame shot out. Wherever the flame went, the black mist automatically retreated. As expected, this evergreen fairy lamp is the key to isolating this black mist. Jian Daozi's eyes lit up. Then, he lifted the evergreen fairy lamp and walked deeper into the black mist. Wherever he went, the black mist automatically retreated. The swordsman behind him followed suit. The only thing left was Jian Changfeng's corpse. After a while, a small wooden puppet the size of a palm suddenly walked out of the corpse. Fortunately, I had a stroke of luck in my early years and obtained a soul transfer technique. Before I died, I transferred my soul into this wooden puppet. Otherwise, I would have died here today. That wooden puppet, which was Jian Changfeng, said with lingering fear. However, at that moment, the surrounding black mist began to circulate, and the black mist sword qi once again condensed. No way. I'm already in this state, and this black mist sword qi still wants to kill me. Jian Changfeng's wooden puppet had a horrified look on its face. If this wooden puppet were to shatter, there would be nothing he could do to save the situation. The sword qi shot out. Since Jian Changfeng's physical body had been destroyed, the remaining wooden puppet's combat power was almost zero. It could not fight back at all. Just as the sword qi was about to shatter the wooden puppet, a sword qi suddenly shot out from the sky and protected the wooden puppet, shattering the black mist sword qi one by one. This sword qi is master. Jian Changfeng was overjoyed as he turned to look into the distance. He saw Chu Kuangren stepping on the air and slowly walking towards Jian Changfeng. He looked at him playfully. How did you turn into a figurine? Figurine? What was that? Jian Changfeng was puzzled. However, he did not think too much about it and knelt in front of Chu Kuangren. Greetings, master. My identity has been exposed, Jian Changfeng then told Chu Kuangren everything that had happened. Alright, I know everything now. Chu Kuangren was not surprised by Jian Changfeng's words at all. Instead, it was Jian Daozi who surprised Jian Changfeng. Besides, Jian Daozi had clearly given him the wrong location, so how did Chu Kuangren find his way here? Could it be, Jian Changfeng suddenly thought of something. There are still spies within the swordsman? Yes. Chu Kuangren nodded. Chapter 572. After passing through the black mist, Jian Daozi and the cultivators of the sword race arrived at a strange place. It was a spatial secret realm that had been created by someone. There were mountains, rivers, and a palace. The palace was surrounded by sword scars, each of which contained a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme, as well as an emperor's might. These were the sword scars left behind by the sword emperor. That was what Jian Daozi and the others thought when they arrived at the palace. They looked at the sword scars with burning eyes. These were the sword scars left behind by the sword emperor, and they contained the Tao of the sword emperor. If they could comprehend them, it would definitely be of great benefit to their cultivation. Among them, Jian Daozi's cultivation base in the Tao of the sword was the highest. When he saw the sword scars, a strange look appeared in his eyes. These sword scars are messy and disorderly. It's almost as if someone was slashing at them with a sword. No, it would be more accurate to say that someone was slashing at them randomly to vent. Jian Daozi said. He could sense anger, hatred, and a strong sense of unwillingness from the sword scars. Ignore these sword scars for now. Let's enter the palace and take a look. Jian Daozi said and led the others into the palace. A skeleton was sitting cross-legged in the palace, and its body emanated an extremely powerful emperor's might. That skeleton was the sword emperor of Azure Mystic. He had already died. Sword scars were also crisscrossing around the skeleton, exuding a strong sense of unwillingness. 2 lines of words were written on one of the pillars. I've meditated for 10,000 years, and my lifespan is almost up, but I still can't live a second life. I hate it. Qingli, forgive me for not being able to see you again. Everyone finally understood what was going on when they saw the 2 lines of words. Those sword scars were indeed left behind by the sword emperor of Azure Mystic. He was venting his unwillingness to live a second life. Legend has it that even emperors have a limited lifespan. Once they reach the end of their lifespan, they can only die if they can't live a second life. The hidden sword guard could not help but sigh. He seemed to be affected by the sorrow and unwillingness contained in the sword scars around him, and he felt a little melancholic. Even emperors would die one day. In this world, was there really no one who could live as long as heaven and earth? Could the legendary immortals do? The hidden sword guards did not understand, and the rest of them did not have an answer either. However, everyone's thoughts quickly returned from the emotions of the emperor's death and focused on the emperor's corpse in front of them. This was the corpse of an emperor. Even though it didn't have any flesh or blood and was only a skeleton, it was still extremely precious. What about the 4 symbols sword essence? Compared to the sword emperor's corpse, Jian Daozi cared more about the 4 manifestations sword origin, which was related to his own Tao. He activated the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart and quickly sensed the existence of the 4 symbols sword essence in the palace. So it's here. Jian Daozi raised his hand and circulated his spiritual power. 2 fist-sized beads, 1 red and 1 blue, flew out from the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's corpse. There was a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme surging on them. However, one of them leaned towards gentleness, like an endless stream of water, while the other was like fire, fierce and domineering, extremely invasive. This was the water and fire sword essence of the 4 symbols sword essence. I finally found it. Jian Daozi's eyes were filled with joy as he grabbed the 2 sword essences. Chu Kuangren, as long as I refine these 2 sword essences, I won't be afraid of you anymore. Jian Daozi said excitedly. However, a light orb suddenly flew out from the sword emperor's corpse. Could this be the sword emperor's inheritance? Jian Daozi was overjoyed. I didn't expect to find something like this other than the 4 symbols sword essence. He raised his hand and grabbed the light orb. Within the light orb, there were countless Taoist rhymes circulating. Any one of these Taoist rhymes was enough to benefit a boundary emperor. It was extremely mysterious. The 4 symbols sword essence and this sword emperor's inheritance. Ha, fate is on my side. This opportunity of fortune is extremely rare even in the barren forbidden area. Chu Kuangren, let's see how you're going to fight me now. Jian Daozi was so excited that he immediately absorbed the light orb into his body. He already had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, so he had a natural affinity with sword Dao. This sword emperor's inheritance would take a long time for others to digest. However, it was not necessary for Jian Daozi. A large amount of the sword emperor's insights continued to surge into Jian Daozi's mind, enhancing his understanding of sword Dao. Beside him, the mystic sword sentinel watched anxiously. She did not expect Jian Daozi's opportunity of fortune to be this big. The 4 symbols sword essence and the sword emperor's inheritance, this was enough to elevate Jian Daozi's strength to a terrifying level. She was worried that this would pose a threat to Chu Kuangren. Since he's refining the sword emperor's inheritance, why don't I kill him right here and now? A cold murderous intent flashed across the mystic sword sentinel's eyes. However, she quickly suppressed that thought. No, Jian Daozi's 2 dark guards were here. She was no match for just one covert sword sentinel. There was no way she could hurt Jian Daozi. Huh? Suddenly, Jian Daozi let out a soft gasp as if he had sensed something. How can this be? Why would he suddenly appear here? There's no way he's here. Jian Daozi's eyes revealed a hint of panic. He had sensed another exquisite 9 orifices sword heart approaching. In this world, who else but Chu Kuangren could possess another exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? However, Chu Kuangren had clearly been tricked by him into going somewhere else, and Jian Changfeng was dead as well. How did he appear here? Jian Daozi was puzzled, but he was currently refining the sword emperor's inheritance. He said, Chu Kuangren is here. Help me block him. Upon hearing that, everyone's expression changed. Before they could ask any questions, a piercingly cold sword-based Taoist rhyme had already swept towards them from afar. Such a strong sword-based Taoist rhyme. It's really Chu Kuangren. We mustn't let him disturb Master Daozi. Everyone was shocked. Only the mystic sword sentinel had a hint of joy in her eyes. Master is finally here. A black figure walked out from the void. This person looked old, but the domineering aura on his body was extremely dense. It was several times stronger than the covert sword sentinel. That domineering aura, in particular, was filled with a sense of deathly stillness that sent chills down everyone's spines. This person was one of Jian Daozi's 3 great dark guards, the withered sword sentinel. The withered sword sentinel was one of the strongest in the swordsman tribe, and he could even be compared to the swordsman tribe leader. The fact that the withered sword sentinel was willing to stay by Jian Daozi's side showed how much the swordsman tribe valued Jian Daozi. Under the withered sword sentinel's lead, everyone walked out of the palace and prepared to fight Chu Kuangren. Not far from them, a white-robed, black-haired figure slowly walked out from the black mist. Behind him was a strange wooden puppet. It was Chu Kuangren and his figurine, Jian Changfeng. The surrounding black mist turned into sharp sword qi that slashed towards Chu Kuangren. However, it automatically disintegrated when it was 30 feet away from him. It could not hurt him at all. Everyone could clearly see that there was a sword qi that was even sharper than the black mist sword qi that circulated around this person. It was this sword qi that shattered the black mist sword qi. Everyone from the swordsman tribe even came out to welcome me. Ha, I'm flattered. Chu Kuangren smiled at the swordsman tribe members who were ready for battle. Chapter 573. Chu Kuangren, how did you find this place? The hidden sword guards were puzzled. They had clearly used Jian Changfeng to send false information to Chu Kuangren, so how could he still find this place? Guess. Could it be that you have spies in the sword clan? The withered sword guard seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed drastically. Ha! At this moment, a coquettish chuckle suddenly rang out. The mystic sword guards suddenly attacked and killed off 2 sword clan cultivators. By the time the withered sword guard noticed it, it was already too late. The mystic sword sentinel turned into a ghostly figure and instantly disappeared from where he stood. He then appeared in front of Chu Kuangren and knelt down on one knee. "Greetings, Master." The scene before them shattered the worldview of the cultivators of the sword race. Forget about Jian Changfeng. Even the mystic sword guards had submitted to Chu Kuangren. This was just too unbelievable. It should be known that the mystic sword guards were even more outstanding than Jian Changfeng. They possessed the peerless fallen darkness body and were the future pillars of the sword race. Not only that, but they also knew that the mystic sword guard was madly infatuated with Jian Daozi. Why did she turn to another man now? What the hell is going on? Jian Changfeng and the mystic sword sentinel. Why would 2 of our swordsman tribe's top skyprides acknowledge Chu Kuangren as their master? The withered sword guard's face turned green. "Chu Kuangren, what have you done to the mystic sword guards?" The hidden sword guard asked loudly. Chu Kuangren replied calmly, "You can ask them yourself." Mystic sword sentinel, what kind of benefits did Chu Kuangren give you? Or did Chu Kuangren have something on you? Someone questioned the Mei sword guard. "I am willing to follow and serve Master. Master is my everything," the mystic sword sentinel said. When he looked at Chu Kuangren, his eyes were filled with a crazed infatuation and worship that was 1,000 times more intense than when he looked at Jian Daozi. When everyone saw this, they couldn't help but feel a chill run from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads, causing their scalps to go numb. Even the experienced and knowledgeable withered sword guards couldn't help but feel terrified at this moment. Chu Kuangren was just too strange. No matter who it is, anyone who betrays the sword clan must die. As the hidden sword guard spoke, his figure disappeared into the void. Hidden sword guards, as the name suggested, were experts in concealment. They were the best at assassination among the shadow sword guards. Most of the cultivators were killed by the hidden sword guards before they could even react. Swoosh, a sword ray instantly pierced towards Chu Kuangren. The speed was fast, and the angle was tricky. It was the essence of the word assassination to the fullest. With a clang, sparks flew. It was not Chu Kuangren who made the first move. Instead, it was the mystic sword sentinel who stood in front of the concealed sword sentinels. "You aren't fit to fight with Master. Do you have any concealment techniques?" "I'm good at it too." The mystic sword guard sneered, and a dark aura emanated from her body. "Humph, then I'll kill you first, traitor." The hidden sword guard snorted coldly and began to fight with the mystic sword guard. The 2 of them changed positions in the void, and sword aura after sword aura shot out. Chu Kuangren looked at the withered sword guards and said, "I'm in a hurry, so you guys can come at me together." Everyone knew that Chu Kuangren was not easy to deal with, so of course, none of them wanted to fight him alone. In an instant, surges of sword chi erupted from the sword clan cultivators and intertwined in the void, forming into a dense sword net that enveloped Chu Kuangren. This sword net was formed by the sword-based Taoist rhymes of every sword cultivator present, and it was extremely powerful. Even a boundary emperor would not be able to escape from this sword net. However, Chu Kuangren did not budge an inch. Instead, a surge of sword chi burst out from his body and tore that powerful sword net apart with just a casual surge of sword chi. Not only that, but the sword chi flew towards the sword clan cultivators like a hot knife through butter. Several clouds of blood mist exploded on the spot. What a terrifying sword chi! Everyone was shocked. They had experienced Jian Daozi's strength before. They also knew how powerful the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was. However, Jian Daozi's sword chi was still far from Chu Kuangren's. Slash! With a cold roar, the withered sword sentinel made his move. With a slash of his sword, a grayish-white sword ray filled with a terrifying deathly intent tore through the sky and headed towards Chu Kuangren. As the strongest cultivator in the Sword Clan, his cultivation level had already reached the level of a top-notch boundary emperor. Compared to the emperors, he was only lacking in terms of Taoist Tao. The Great Mastery Tao. What a shame. If you could achieve the Great Mastery Tao, then it might be worth watching. Chu Kuangren slowly raised his hand and clasped two of his fingers together. Then, he formed a sword finger and gently slashed at the grayish-white sword ray. A streak of dazzling purple sword light whizzed out. The two sword rays collided in the void. The purple sword ray tore through the grayish-white sword ray like a hot knife through butter and headed towards the withered sword sentinel. How is this possible? The withered sword sentinel's eyes narrowed as he swung his long sword at the purple sword ray. With a clang, the withered sword sentinel's sword flew out of his hand, and he was sent flying before he crashed into the palace wall. With a loud boom, the wall cracked, and the withered sword sentinel spat out a mouthful of blood as several of his bones were broken. He looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. He had heard of Chu Kuangren's combat strength before. He knew that if Chu Kuangren were to use his emperor weapon, no one below the emperor realm would be a match for him. However, Chu Kuangren did not even have to use his emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren had already defeated him with just a sword chi. That was just too terrifying. He's even more terrifying than the rumors say. I can't believe he has improved so much in such a short time. Even with the help of the earth vein essence, how can he refine it so quickly? The withered sword sentinel looked at the calm Chu Kuangren and knew that he and the others could not stop him. He gritted his teeth, and a powerful surge of energy erupted from his body. Dark red blood-colored flames were ignited around him. I won't let you disturb the Taoist disciple even if I have to sacrifice my life today. The withered sword sentinel said ferociously. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and could tell that the withered sword sentinel had used some kind of secret technique to forcefully increase his spiritual power. However, the price he had to pay was his lifespan. That technique was similar to the 9 Deaths blazing blood art that Chu Kuangren had previously learned. However, it was much more mysterious. Die! The withered sword sentinel turned into a sword ray and charged at Chu Kuangren. The sword-based Taoist rime on his body surged, and the dark red blood-colored flames burned on his body. It then condensed into a gigantic sword shadow that exuded a terrifying sword pressure that could destroy everything in its path. The withered sword sentinel had turned his body into a sword and unleashed the most powerful attack in his entire life. Your courage is commendable, but it's useless. Chu Kuangren said calmly. The descendant self-sword at his waist was unsheathed, and a purple sword ray slashed across the sky like a crescent moon. It was breathtaking and beautiful. At the same time, a gush of blood spurted out. The sword shadow on the withered sword sentinel's body was torn apart, and his entire body was sliced in half by Chu Kuangren's sword. The scene before them was extremely horrifying. The crowd of swordsman cultivators trembled in fear. They felt that the handsome, black-haired Chu Kuangren in front of them was an Ashura demon that had just walked out of hell.